Hello, Star Fam. How are we doing? Thank you all so much for joining me. Oh, why the hell is this blue? What happened? What? Oh, no. What happened? And did I want it to be blocked? Were we bubbled before? Ah, did they update? I feel like this updated on me and did not tell me. Anyway, how are we doing? Thank you all so much for being here and joining me for yet another live. Um, Thank you all. Today we are going to be talking about America's Next Top Model, the reality check inside America's Next Top Model. We are going to go through each episode because there's just so much. I want to say this, y'all. When I watched this, I thought that it was going to be like salacious. You know what I mean? I thought we was going to get some tea. I cried every episode. Like, I was in tears every episode. This was really sad. Like, this wasn't giving tea. This wasn't giving, oh, child. This wasn't giving salacious. This was giving, oh my God, this should have never happened. And everybody needs to be sued. I was so heartbroken after watching this and just disappointed in so many people, but also not surprised because this is just how the industry is. It is unfortunate that so many people go along with it, but those young lady, the women on the show who were young women, younger women at the time, their stories are not isolated incidents. That is just Hollywood, unfortunately. Let's get into. Oh, let me do my intro. Hi, my name is Nikki.Star. I do comedic reviews of some of your favorite reality TV shows. This will not be a comedic review. My God, today, this is going to be deep, maybe a bit sad, but we'll get some joy. And what I normally do here is I just give my thoughts on each episode or the episode. And then after I hop into the comments with the Star family and we chat about what we thought about whatever we are discussing. Sometimes we go off on a tangent, but we love those here. So if you are joining me for the first time, just make sure, especially if you're replay gang, just make sure that you check the description box because all of the timestamps will be in there after this video has been posted. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's get into episode 1. So here we are. I will say this also was like so nostalgic. Like to just see my youth, like just reliving all of these moments. I was like, oh my God, a time was had. My God, today, the early 2000s, unmatched. Unmatched. So we open up with the iconic "I was rooting for you" speech from Tyra. I will say the opening for this is episode 1. The opening for this documentary had me hooked. I think it was very, very well put together. I liked that they were able to get a lot of people. I liked that a lot of people were honest to, an extent, Tyra. I would have liked to see more people, but I think it would have been like 10 episodes had they done that. I do think they probably need to do a follow up because this was very well put together. There was a lot of time and thought put into this. And like I said, the intro hooked me immediately. I said, let's go. One thing I will say about Miss Tyra, she knows. Hold on. She knows how to do a wig. Oh, I thought they was going. You're not gonna let me stay. Anyway, y'all can hear me. She knows how to do a wig. My entire life, she has never had a bad wig. This was a good. It was giving Scout. It was giving Scout. This is the only person I have ever seen whose wigs always look like their hair or sew-ins. My God, today, what a wiggy she is. She knows what she's doing. And Tyra was the first one to really put what lace at the forefront. Like those wigs look like they were coming out of her scalp back in the day. To this day, there are so many people who cannot recreate what her hairstylist was able to do. I think her hairstylist and her makeup artist, not Mr. J, but I think she had another makeup artist who has passed on. But those wigs were phenomenal. So she showed up in a good wig and her Inspector Gadget coat, ready to not take responsibility for anything. Tyra, this was so disappointing. This was so disappointing. I was like, wow, Tyra, this was your opportunity. And she just did not take responsibility for anything. She explains her journey as a model. We see her from when she was a very young, then we see her on all of the covers. We see her on all of the runways with the top models. I do want to say this. Tyra doesn't have a good reputation now. But to the people who may not know, because there was a little discourse on Threads, to the people who may not know, who are not aware, Tyra Banks at that time was a supermodel. Like she wasn't, I think once you're a supermodel, you're always a supermodel, but what she was able to do, just, reigning supreme as one of the first Black American supermodels was huge. Like, we're not gonna, play on her top. You know what I mean? She is not in a good place right now. She has fallen very heavily from public opinion, but we got to give her her flowers. She was an iconic Black American supermodel who absolutely changed the game for models just like her coming up. This show, woo, was not her greatest legacy, but what she was able to do on those covers, what she was able to do on that runway, iconic. A supermodel, she is, and a supermodel, she remains. I still remember when the fan fodder that was her Sports Illustrated shoot, and I remember her cover. I remember it was like such an uproar because she was the first black woman to be on the cover, but she had to share it with a white woman, and I remember it was such an uproar about that. All the black adults were pissed that she had to share the cover with a white woman, but that was like such a big deal that Tyra Banks was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I remember me and my friends after school went to Barnes and Noble to go see that freaking cover. That's how iconic it was. Like she is that, well, not currently, but back in the day, you wasn't catching her. Back in the day, it was her and Naomi. There were other models, but it was always, if it wasn't Naomi Campbell, it was Tyra Banks, neck and neck, neck and neck. So a lot of people just like she wasn't that. She was. I'm just like you must have been living under a rock. She's a supermodel, guys. She is a supermodel. And she also was somebody who was able to successfully, go from being a supermodel to an actress. I remember her in Higher Learning. I remember her, they showed the clip of her on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like she was everywhere and she was dominating every lane that she decided to take on. She was one of the world's biggest supermodels, a household name. Now, currently, yeah, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But let's not play about her name. Let's not play about her name. We finally meet Ken Mock. This man has produced some of the biggest reality TV shows of my childhood and my young adult years. And I never knew what he looked like. And I was like, that's you. That's Ken. You know what, Ken? America's Next Top Model might not be a great legacy for you. Maybe that's why you don't really, um, he's probably not really talked about like that. But I didn't know that Kim Mock was Asian. And I guess, the last name, maybe I should have known. I'm Black American. Okay. I didn't know that he was Asian. And I was just like, for an Asian man to have been an EP at these major networks for these major reality TV shows, that was huge. That should have been a really big deal. And I don't know why the Asian community is not making a big deal about that. Maybe just because of America's Next Top Model. But I was like, wow, you were in the EPC of these huge shows. And guys, listen, again, they are not without blemish. But to have a Black American woman and an Asian man who who were able to create one of the biggest global reality TV shows and dominated for at least a decade, that was iconic. Damn near never heard of. Listen, I hate the way it ended, but they were breaking records. They were cracking glass ceilings. I will give them that. Um, Ken doesn't take responsibility for anything. He takes responsibility for one thing, and that was the casket photo shoots. I believe no, the photo shoots where the ladies were but they had to pose like they were murdered. That was the only thing he took responsibility for. Everything else, he blamed the network. And I'm like, you're the EP, Ken. Like, you maybe can tell other people that, but you're the EP. You got a lot of power as well. The network has the first and final say, but the EP has a lot of power and influence. But him and Tyra, they were not taking responsibility for anything. They were just like, this is show business. That's not a good look, y'all. That's not a good look. I also want to say America's Next Top Model came around a time which was really, really difficult, right? Because reality TV got a really big boom during the writer's strike. and the first writer strike, like what, almost 20 something years ago. And that was because the networks were going to crash if they didn't have content. And so they had to find a loophole around the unions. And what they did was create these reality TV stars. And the reason why they did that was because they did not have to pay them like they would have to pay. They didn't have to pay them or treat them or credit them the way they would have had to credit union writers and union actors. So the way you get around the SAG-AFTRA Actors Union and the Writers Guild, the Writers Union, the way you get around that is you hire nobodies, right? You put them on a show, you put a camera in front of their face, you don't write anything, but you script, you you write a script for them in editing, and you influence that script and production. So that was how they were able to get around that. So all of these reality TV shows came out of nowhere, and they were all these kind of game shows. And right around that time, American Idol was doing really, really well. It was a huge juggernaut. And so Tyra Banks was just like, listen, I want to do something like American Idol. I want to find the next top supermodel. So she reached out to Mr. J, who they were really, really great friends at the time because Mr. J, well, no, Miss J. She reached out to Miss J because Miss J was her walking coach. She's known Miss J since she was 16 years old. And she was like, I have an idea for a show. What do you think? And Miss J was just like, child, I'm on it. And then she reached out to Mr. J, who was her makeup artist and long time friend. And that was the beginning of Tyra and the Jays for America's Next Top Model. But I'm saying all of this because later on, throughout this documentary, you are going to get Tyra being like, I couldn't do anything. I'm like, this is your idea. This is your baby. You casted everyone. You shot this show already put together 2 networks, but you're not responsible for anything. Anyway, she decided that this is what she wanted to do and strike while the iron was hot, because there was all of these competition game shows to find the next star, because at this time everybody's striking, so the stars are not accessible. So what do you do when you can't get to the stars? You make some. And that's exactly why reality TV took off the way it did. Um, the issue was that nobody wanted to touch America's Next Top Model. And the thing that what I believe was the reason was that this show was with a Black woman, and it was about an industry that nobody really takes serious. So I think she was working really, really hard to get something made that no networks wanted to invest in. And I honestly believe that it wasn't that she didn't have a good show, it was the fact that she was Black and a woman. And I think that was the reason why she was getting so much pushback, because when you put her in this position, and if this show does well, this lady's going to have a lot of power and influence. You don't want to upset the system that has been built to benefit only one sect of people. So that's why so many people who are not white, who are not straight, who are not men, are kept out of certain spaces. Because if I put you in this space and you do well, somebody who looks like you from a lower class or from a different culture, or who loves the same sex, or is just not somebody that has been elevated, then that changes how the hands of power change, the influence, and who people really want to then be like changes. That's why we're in the situation we are in the United States of America. We had a Black president for 8 years. That changed a lot. And the people who benefited from everybody being asleep got scared. That's why we're here now. So I wish they would have you know, dug into that a bit more. But I think with the people that were on the documentary, they couldn't really be honest about why nobody wanted to touch the show. But I think it was very honest considering where this industry is. It needs to do so much better, but that is still an issue. Women are still having a hard time getting in power positions in this industry. Black people are still having a very hard time getting in power positions in this industry. So she was shopping the show to everybody. Nobody wanted to pick it up. But then UPN. And here's the thing, if the kids don't know, I'm going to let you know. When I was growing up, we had black networks, not just BET. UPN was one of them. We used to call UPN You Pick a, because it was black people built UPN. Like all of their shows that did so well were black shows, full black cast. Like if you were an actor at that time and you wanted to get some work, UPN was going to keep you booked and busy. So every other network passed, but not UPN. So UPN was just like, why not? Let's do it. They needed some content because the network was still really young. And so they needed some content and they had the urban market at that time. So they were just like, this black woman with this show about vanity, why not? Let's give it a shot. So UPN was just like, they accepted Tyra's offer and they just said, let's make this show. Um, seeing the top model contestants very young did something to me. Like seeing like the first season and how bright-eyed and bushy-tailed they were, and then cutting to them being older women and reflecting on what that was. I got so emotional seeing all of them. I don't know if it was just like nostalgia and just me seeing what life has done to them and seeing some of them still being just traumatized by their experience. I just felt so emotional. I just got so emotional just watching them. Like, oh my goodness. I remember, the first casting call. I remember watching the auditions, and then like the next day you're talking about it with your friends and like, did you see that? Like, it was just so nostalgic, but it was sad. I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly. Millennials, you let me know if you know what I'm feeling and trying to explain. But it was just really just like a wealth of emotions happening, just watching the juxtaposition of the ladies coming into the casting calls and being so excited, and then cutting back to them and then being like, I didn't really enjoy my time. And then explaining why. A gut punch. Because I had a blast watching. And I'm sitting here watching these women who are talking about all the hell they went through. And I'm like, this was my entertainment. It just was such a pain. This was painful. If you're already going through something, I don't think you should watch the documentary because I boo hooed every episode. The one person that two people I cried with the most, Ebony and Danny. Ebony broke me. Her entire segment was just heartbreaking. I will say this, she's still stunning. She still has, even despite what she has been through, she still has such great energy. She is such a light. I loved seeing her. Um, Before we get into Ebony, I want to say this also about the industry. Tyra's the bad guy. The Jays are the bad guy. Nigel's the bad guy. Janice, the bad guy. The bad guy over all those bad guys, the network. So at the time when UPN accepted America's Next Top Model, they had a different president. They hands of power changed. They got a new president, Les Moonves. If you don't know about Les Moonves, he was a studio exec juggernaut. He is no longer practicing being an exec because he got caught up in a sex scandal and lost everything. His wife is the host of not Survivor, Big Brother, And remember when that whole scandal went down, she started ending the show saying her name. I think it's Julie Chen. I'm not sure, but I think it's Julie Chen. And she would say, "This is signing off, Julie Chen Moonves," as like to let everybody know, although y'all took my man down, I'm still here. And because I'm married to him, he's still here. And I remember it was such a controversy because people were just like, you want to be connected to somebody who lost everything because he couldn't control his dingaling. I remember she was looking so foolish out there in them streets. But anyway, he was a juggernaut, but he was also a terrible guy. And they had done a casting call. There wasn't a lot of people because this was just still very, very new. It gave RuPaul's Drag Race season 1. There wasn't a lot of money because the network is taking a risk. They don't know how this show was going to do. So they had to really make it work. They all stayed in they filmed the whole show in a hotel. They had the ladies living in suites, and then they would film like certain segments in like a ballroom of the hotel. They were doing their best to make this work. Anyway, at that time, the hands of power at UPN changed. So Tyra had done the casting calls. They were while they were currently filming, she had all of the girls that she wanted. Before they could even make it to the final cut of the first episode, Les Moonves, the production um, sent him the final list of contestants that will be going forward in the competition. There was a Latina girl that he was just like, no, not her. And Tyra was so pissed off. Ken Mock was just like, she was raging about that girl to the point where it almost got violent. And he was like, Tyra, calm down. They gave us money to film this. Let's not screw this up. We work for them. But he did not want that girl. He did not want her. They kept on saying he didn't want a Latina. But isn't Giselle? Isn't she a Latina child? But he just did not want her, and that was so sad to watch. And I know if that girl, because she was already picked, they had to let her go. I know that girl, whoever she was, who got cut. I know if she watched this, I could only imagine the pain of knowing that you had an opportunity snatched from you from some hating man. I can only fathom what that moment was like for that woman if she watched this and realized that this man had a huge interference in her future. Who knows what she could have been had she had that opportunity? Now, looking back, this show was so traumatizing. Maybe it was a good thing she didn't do it. But she just never got the opportunity because of some hating guy. And that is how Hollywood is, guys. This is why movies look the way they look. This is why shows are written the way they're written and filmed the way they're written. Because artists and the best people for the job are never really chosen. The network has the final say. The studios have the final say. And oftentimes, it's not the decisions that they are making, it's not because the audience wants it or it'll help the show. It's because they have been always selling us an agenda and making us believe that this is just how it is. So maybe that Latina girl was too Latina for him. Maybe she was just too. She would have inspired too many Latina girls. So let's take her out. What would her impact have been had he not ruined that for that young lady? And Tyra was pissed. She said, "I could not believe he took that from me. He was just like, she was perfect. I wanted her. I knew that she would. I knew that she would be good." The way they were raving about this girl, they were sounding like she was going to win this thing. Les Moonves took it from her. It happens all the time. There are so many great actresses. There are so many great actors. There are so many great writers. There are so many great producers, directors, set design. There are so many great talented people that you will never meet because hideous gatekeepers in this industry make sure they never get an opportunity. You are never getting the best of the best. You are getting those handpicked by the elites who aren't talented. and don't know talent. Now, there are some people who are really great, but I'm telling you right now, there's a girl back in her small town that lost an opportunity and couldn't afford to stay here that can act your fave under a table, that can sing your fave under the table. That voice would probably be able to send anybody to glory. You'll never meet her because of these gatekeepers. They didn't fit the aesthetic, they didn't fit the agenda. It happens all the time, and it's so heartbreaking. If that girl watches this and knows that that moment was taken from her, I pray that she is okay, because that had to be um, heartbreaking. Anyway, let's get to Ebony. I boohooed watching her. Um, oh, do I have Ebony's picture? Hold on. I thought I had all of their pictures. Anyway, I'll get a picture while I talk about her. Ebony, I felt so bad watching this because I thought that her being gay was something that she wanted to put out there. I thought that she was gay and proud, right? I didn't know that she wasn't out. Ebony was 24 years old, a kid, baby, right? She comes on this show and she, just like me, grew up in a very Black American and proud family. And she was just like, she just always knew that she was beautiful. And one reason why she knew that was because her grandmother, who had a salon, whenever people would come in there, she would like, "That's my grandbaby. Tell her that she's dark and beautiful, dark and lovely," or something like that, black and beautiful. She always was affirmed. So she had this confidence that was off putting to people because of how she looked. They could not take somebody like this having the same confidence of the woman, the white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. So she wasn't received well. And I absolutely remember them making her seem so difficult. And I also remember seeing Ebony after America's Next Top Model and being, not because I didn't know about reality TV at that point, but I was just like, what is the truth? Because this person is so different. I remember her interviews and I was just like, this person is so fun, so full of light. Like the show was editing her to be some kind of mean girl, but what they weren't showing is that she was reacting to people's macro aggressions. Um, I will say this about Ebony. Her story was so groundbreaking because if you don't know, we're coming off the 90s, right? The 90s villainized the gay community. Shout out to Reagan. Hope you're currently burning in hell. Him and his wife, Nancy Neck Reagan, I still remember that press conference where she said that AIDS was God's punishment to the gay community. I remember being a child and being like, that's not right. Yeah, I remember feeling like that was wrong. My God, my discernment, A plus. But anyway, the gay community was villainized at that time. And so Ebony was just like, I was not out and I was scared. You know, she was just like, you couldn't be gay back then. It was a very scary time. And so she was just like, I didn't know that that was going to become my story. Like, yes, you're at castings and you say things, but she just really did not anticipate that. But she was just like, the show put it out there and I just had to go with it. Like, she wasn't even really comfortable showing her relationship, but the show wanted to do that. And I want to say, I feel totally heartbroken for Ebony now, knowing that she didn't want to share that. I will say, as somebody who was around gay people and grew up with them, like in my family and my church, I was so inspired watching her because I had never seen like lesbians, black lesbians, being shown in like a healthy light. I just, that relationship to me, because again, we're coming off the 90s, which was just like villainized gay people. So to see like this happy and healthy relationship where two black women just loved each other, that was revolutionary to me. Because I remember it clicking for me, because you have the media, you have the president, you have the first lady, you have, because we were like back then, America was mad conservative. Like we're going back to that. My teenage and adult years, that's when it got real liberal, right? That was, yeah, we got liberal with the saxophone guy, but I couldn't vote at that. Yeah, my childhood was like, baby conservative. Then we went real liberal, so liberal we got a black president, and now we're here. So my formidable years was mad liberal, but I still remember some things when I was very, very young. And so I remember there just being like a lot of fear. Like, you know, like I won't tell people's business, but some of the older gay people in my life were just like, can't hold hands and things. Like I remember just them being very alert of what they could and could not do. I remember that. So to see this beautiful black lesbian couple just loving each other, and it, for me it clicked, because you're hearing all these negative things about gay people, and then you're hearing it in the media, you're hearing it from the president, you're hearing it from the first lady, you're hearing it in TV shows, and you're hearing it from church, and you although it's just like I'm just trying to explain, as a child trying to figure out what is right and what is the truth, right? Because all the adults are saying this is wrong. But then I look up on this TV show and I'm seeing these people who I can relate to, black women who I can relate to. They look like me. I get it. I understand. I gravitated to Ebony, right? But just to see that relationship, it was so normal. It was so healthy. And I was like, oh, it's just two people in love. Like it just made so much sense. Now, keep in mind, I went to performing arts high school. So, my world was real gay. Okay. I've seen it. We had trans kids at my school. So there was, I was a little awoken to some things, but still trying to navigate what is going to be my beliefs. That relationship, I'll never forget it. Because that was the moment that just made sense. I was like, it's just two people in love. And I remember when Ebony's girlfriend came, I remember how just seeing her made her feel. I remember her being so happy and comforted. I didn't feel weird when they kissed. It was just like, this is what you do to your partner. It just clicked and it made so much sense. I will never forget that. And I hate the fact that something that was so revolutionary for so many of us was such a hard moment for Ebony. But what an icon that woman is. I also was so heartbroken when she spoke about how she was treated on the show. I remember when she did not want to cut her hair and they made her seem difficult. I remember those professional top stylists making fun of her hair. I also remember feeling like they were told to do that. It felt like Ebony was targeted watching the show, because it was just like there was always something to agitate her. The girls telling her that she's too ashy. Then we cut to Ebony's confessional, and she's just like, well, the girls telling her that she's greasy. They don't like. I remember that they didn't like that she was always oiled up, and when they touched the knob, they could feel the grease from her hands. I remember that, but to find out that she was over like moisturizing herself because the network called Tyra and told her that Ebony was ashy. So she like panicked, moisturized, and Ebony was just like, I just had a terrible day at that salon. I had them making fun of my hair. I get a call from Tyra. I'm thinking that Tyra is going to tell me, oh, I'm going to send you to a salon in Harlem. And Tyra says, oh, you're ashy. We got to do something about your skin. And Ebony was just like, after that, the texture of my skin also became an issue. So you have this black woman, young black dark skinned woman, who everybody is calling her aggressive and rough and difficult. We're dealing with her personality, then we get into her looks, and they're saying the same thing. Your skin is aggressive and rough. And keep in mind, she's 24 years old while filming her life now as a lesbian, something she's never done or never shared. So she's dealing with all of this at 24 on a TV show that's exploiting her, where a top model, keep in mind, at the time was a huge star. So think about this. You're a 24-year-old Black American woman. The one of the most iconic Black American supermodels is mentoring you on this show. Keep in mind, y'all 10 years apart. So not only is she this iconic supermodel from your same culture who you can relate to, she's also your senior. So you look to her in a caring and big sister and understanding and relatable way. So Ebony in real time is realizing that this lady doesn't see me how I see her. And while she's dealing with that, she's also dealing with the fact that a huge part of her life is on display and she's not yet comfortable with even speaking about it. They did her dirty. But my sister, you will rise. You will rise. I hated the way Janice spoke about her. And I got to say this about Kimora Lee Simmons. Um, I was a huge baby fat. But like when baby fat dropped, that was my thing. I had the baby fat jackets in all colors. I had black, red, and pink. That was my favorite one. I had the bedazzled baby fat sweats with the bootleg. Y'all remember them baby fat the bootleg sweatsuits? Child, I had them, and I remember I used to wear my baby fat bedazzled sweatsuit, black with the bootleg jeans, with the bootleg flare, and I used to wear my baby fat jacket with the fur and my baby fat hoops. You couldn't tell me nothing. And I used to get the this is not racist, guys. We call it the Chinese store. We call it I'm from Philly. We call it the Chinese store. And or the hair store. I'll say the hair store. In Philly, we say the Chinese store. But well, I used to get my bedazzled tinted pink heart shaped glasses, and it had like a bedazzled heart in the top right lens. You couldn't tell me nothing, especially when I had my baby hairs down to here and I had my ponytail. I used to get, they weren't drawstrings back in the day. You used to have to pin them bad boys into your scalp. And I used to have my ponytail all the way. You couldn't tell me nothing. Ooh, doing too much talking. I was a baby fat girl, baby fat down. I'll never forget that episode where Kimora dragged Ebony, and the way she talked about her cut me internally, because I knew then there wasn't anything that Ebony could do for her to like her. Because of what Ebony looked like, she was never going to receive her. And because I related so much to Ebony, I was just like, if she feel that way about Ebony, she feel that way about me. Last time wearing her stuff, I was out. I remember everybody was just like, every time something baby fat came out, you don't want answer. I'm good. I'm good on her. Because I knew it was not just about Ebony. I knew she felt that way about every woman or every person that looked like Ebony, all to later in her life jump on a man. Child. Child. Oh Lord, they hate everything dark skin until it's a dingaling. My God, today. But I'm telling you that fundamentally changed me because they got a little bit of what Kimora was saying about Ebony. She was so nasty to her. Ebony is rough. Like it was just they were calling her old, they were calling her rough. Kimora just stayed on her skin. It was so unnecessary. And then you get to the white girls or the light girls, and her critiques are so different. I'm just not seeing it for Ebony. Last day, I put all my baby fat in storage. My sister gave it away. I was like, I'm good. Put it in my basement. I'm good. Went up to college, left that right there. Left there. I said, I'm good on that. I don't need nothing. But you couldn't tell me nothing all through high school. Baby fat sound. You couldn't tell me nothing. Those were the days. Those were the days. I also wish we would have talked about Janice more. I didn't want Janice in the documentary, but Janice was a demon. She was so awful. And they kept on saying, oh, it became a competition for Janice to, like, annoy Tyra. Okay, thank you for all of that. Why was that lady hired? Why was she allowed to do that? You are a lot. They're all saying in the documentary they didn't agree with her approach, but she remained on the show for several seasons. So you had to agree with it at some point. I wish we would have had more discussion about Janice and how awful she was. We talked a little bit about Giselle. Here's the thing. Giselle was 18, so I would give her grace. But Giselle, you weren't likable. I mean, like, just I remember your season, Giselle. You're 18, you're a baby. I get it. You were part of the mean girl clique that bullied Ebony. You were the main one saying that, asking her to wipe off a knob because she was so greasy. You nitpicked a lot. You complained a lot. You got on a lot of people's nerves. I will give her this. She was just like, I was 18 years old and I have these adults judging my body on camera. I didn't know how to handle that, and I didn't handle it the best way. So I'll give her that. I'll give her that. I'm going to excuse her behavior because she was 18. But I remember watching it and being like, ugh. She was not a fave. So at the end of episode 1, Shandy comes up. Shandy comes up, and she is so sad. Hold on, because I feel like I thought I had these pictures. Forgive me. Um, it's so easy to love you. It's so easy to love. Shandy, let me get Ebony so y'all can know who I'm talking about. You want to be on top? You want to be on? You want to be on? All right, here are their pictures. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I thought I had it all. Um, you want to be on top? Here is Ebony. This is who I was talking about. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous girl. They did everything to break her down. Here is Shandy. I'll get a better picture. This was just me rushing. But she comes on and I'm like, oh, Shandy, because I love Shandy. As soon as she pops up, it is such a somber feeling falls over me because she is not, like, I won't say that she's not happy to be there, but you know that she's about to say something really, really heartbreaking. And I'm like, oh, what happened? Because I just thought that Shandy just didn't want to model anymore. I'm like, what? What happened with Shandy? I remember everything about Ebony because I felt the same way too. But again, you're young, you're not really knowing how to process these things. Like, there are so many things that I look back at now and I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? But you just don't know how to process that stuff when you're that age. But I felt Ebony and I knew that that stuff wasn't right. But with Shandy, I'm like, oh, I thought you I thought you enjoyed it. Like, I was so confused. I also remember her on the Tyra Banks show. And she was beaming about it. So I'm like, what happened with Shandy? Well, child, let's get into what happened with Shandy. Um, she starts talking about her time on America's Next Top Model, and Shandy's voice is very low and very somber. I don't know what she's about to say, but I'm feeling it because she's so heavy. That's a great word. That's a great way to express it. She's so heavy. She's so heavy. And before she could say what her issue is with the show, we meet Nigel. Now, Nigel is brought on to the show because the network wanted a white guy to be on the show. They wanted a straight white guy on the show. And the Jays were just like, hold up, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Because America's Next Top Models are really good at this time. And they're like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, what is the problem? But here is the thing: networks have an agenda. They can't just make money and just, cash their checks and go home. They have an agenda. And their agenda was, we need a straight white guy in there because we don't feel seen. They didn't like the fact that that show didn't center them. Because look at this show. Not only is this a show that is created by a Black American woman, it is executive produced it's created by a Black American woman and produced by her. It's executive produced by an Asian man. The co-stars are a Black gay man, a Black American gay man, and a swirly South African. Where are the white people? You got Janice Dickerson, right? Where are the white men? Where are they? Why aren't they centered? It's not for them. Why would they be centered? But that is their agenda. You have to center whiteness, a specific whiteness, because even though Janice was a white woman, she wasn't the whiteness they wanted centered. So you bring in Nigel. He's straight, he's handsome, he's clean cut. He wasn't given white to me, but it was white enough for the network. So they brought him on not because of how great Nigel is, but because he needed to fit the straight white guy role that the network thought the show needed. Lucky for them, Nigel worked out. Lucky for them, Nigel worked out. And Nigel only worked out because production casted him. They went and found him. Tyra and them. If the network would have brought in their white guy, it probably would have been Adam Sandler. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know what they're doing. So lucky for them, Nigel came in and he was actually a good fit for the show. I can't believe, like, Nigel, like, seeing Nigel older, like, oh my God, we are really old guy. Like, seeing him older, oh my God. I remember thinking he was so hot, but I never got white. He gave me Keanu Reeves. Like, this doesn't look, he looked like a white guy now. Back then, especially when he had hair, I didn't see it. His early modeling pictures, definitely Sri Lankan, and his mother, stunning. Let's get into episode 2. So Shandy now is talking about her experience, and she was the girl from Walgreens, and she said she remembers in her casting She remembers saying, I don't want to go back to Walgreens. And they loved that about Shandy because she actually fit the model aesthetic at that time. And what that was the 90s supermodels, some of the really big ones were white girls who were in small towns who were found like working at a drugstore. That's how a lot of them had that's how a lot of them have been discovered. So it was really so Shandy was really popular because she fit that storyline. They really liked her for that because they were just like, this is going to be the one to fulfill that storyline, that normal, it's a normal model storyline, and we have to bring her on the show. This is also at the point where a lot of the women are starting to realize, hey, this isn't this isn't like a modeling competition. This is a TV show. A lot of them, like in real time, were figuring it out that, oh, this is not really about modeling. I'm doing a TV show. And that's what a lot of people don't get when they watch reality TV, like especially with, for example, traders. People are just like, this is the game. This is how it's played. And I'm like, this is not just a game. It is a TV show. The decisions that the network is making are very intentional, guys. Are very intentional. They can interfere in this game, and everyone's like, "Oh no, they can't." It's this leak. No, you got to look at the contracts. You have to read the fine print when those credits are rolling. The producers can absolutely come in and interfere in whatever part of the competition they feel is necessary because their excuse could be, well, this is good for the show. The show is more important than the competition. The competition is secondary, even if it comes with money and opportunities. It is never more important than the show. That's why Rob doesn't have to reveal that he has a dagger, even though his name is being thrown out there, because he knows he's going to make it another round. The show is always more important than the competition. Anyway, Shandy, it's just like she was really honored to just be a part of this because she never really thought that she can do it. Her boyfriend at the time thought that she would be really, really great for it. And she was just like, I kept on getting farther and farther. And I was just like, wow, okay, this is something I think that I could really do. And then we get to that moment. Here's the thing about that moment. And all of you who watched it, let me know how you felt about this. Because I remember the moment I'm speaking of is when the America's Next Top Model has got a huge budget now. The first season, the show was a hit. They didn't speak to Adrian for some reason. I don't know why. Adrian used to be really vocal about how Tyra was awful and America's Next Top Model didn't help her. I was shocked. She was the first season winner of America's Next Top Model, and she was not on this documentary when she's always been so vocal about how awful the show was to her. Anyway, so it was really, really huge at that time. And so they got more money, they got a bigger budget, they got their own soundstage, and they were able to take international trips. So the girls are sent to Paris to do go-sees. And during the go-sees, they met these male models, all set up for them to meet male models, all set up for them to get spicy with the male models. Some of the girls took the bait. And Shandy is just like, I thought that it would have been fun to just like hang out. She was just like, I didn't have any intentions of doing anything, but I was drunk. And she was just like, we were drinking the whole night. She was just like, none of us were eating because another thing they talk about is how the show was a bunch of eating disorders. So nobody's eating. The models are not eating. So she's like, nobody's eating. I didn't eat. I had like a piece of bread and cheese. And we were drinking heavily. She says, all I remember is kissing him and then nothing else. She says, I don't remember us in the shower. I don't remember us in my room. Like she does not remember any of it. But she says, I woke up the next morning and everything just washed over me. And she said that she was so like distraught. She wanted to leave the show. They told her she couldn't leave. She wanted to call her boyfriend because because her boyfriend was her only family. She said she left her home when she was 18, walked out of her house. Her dad looked at her leave and said, "Where are you going?" She said, "I'm leaving. I'm never coming back." And he said, "Okay, have a good time." So she's still to this day, she's in her 40s. She has no relationship with her parents. So her boyfriend was essentially her family. And so when the incident happened, she said, "I need to talk to somebody about this." They would not let her talk to anyone. So she said, "If you won't let me talk to anybody, I'm going to leave the show." And she said, suddenly a phone was available for me to be able to call my boyfriend. And so they said to her, the only way that she can speak to him is if they film predatory. And she said she called him and she told him that she did something really, really bad. And the boyfriend was just like, "What do you mean?" And she was just like, "I did something really, really bad." And we all remember that phone call. He goes, "You had sex?" And they both start crying. And he said, "How could you do that to me, you effing B?" And she's on the floor wailing. Her boyfriend's on the phone wailing. And she said, after that scene, the cameraman came over to me and said, "I'm sorry that we had to film that." She was like, even they knew. And Shandy was just like, "I wish they would have cut it. I wish they would have, when we were doing that at drinking, I wish they would have said, take them out of there." She was just like, "I wasn't myself. I was not me." Like there was something, she's like, "You could see that I was drunk. Why didn't they take me out of there?" Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because I want to talk to the millennials who watch that. Gen X too. Hey Gen X. I absolutely believe Shandy because I remember watching that and being like, something's off. We had never seen Shandy like that. The only time we saw Shandy be a little different was when she did the dance competition. Who knew that Shandy could dance? She ate that dance competition up, the hip hop competition. She threw her hair back. That was the only time we was like, okay, Shandy. But when they were in that hot tub, she kept on going like she was just not herself. It didn't feel right to me. It did not feel right to me. And that whole scene, she was just like, they watched me have sex with this guy, knowing I was blackout drunk. And nobody did anything. And their excuse was, well, when you sign up for the show, you sign up for all of your life to be filmed, and we can't interfere. If your contestant is drunk, you should absolutely interfere. But that is the thing with these reality TV shows. That's why you can't talk on the phone. You don't have access to a phone. You don't have access to a television. What you do have access to, alcohol. They want to get you drunk so that you can make terrible decisions. Real World was infamous for doing stuff like that. That's the reality TV setup. And the way she was crying and shaking, she said, "Me and my boyfriend, we couldn't work after that. We tried. He moved to New York City with me, but we couldn't. That relationship couldn't survive that because we're walking down the street and somebody calls me a cheating B while I'm holding his hand because she was villainized to not only be taken advantage of by the show, perform an act you didn't consent to and don't remember, have to then tell your boyfriend on camera after your assault was filmed, then have to film you telling your boyfriend, then have to the next day sit down with Tyra, who goes into how she was cheated on. She was just like, I thought that Tyra was going to big sister me, to chastise me for cheating. And I think what happened to Shandy is what happens to so many young women. Something happens to you and you try to make sense of it. The first thing you do is blame yourself. The older you get, the angrier you get because now you can finally see what the situation really is. So I think she blamed herself for that. And I think as she got older, she kept on replaying it and realizing that she was not protected at all. And I think it had to take some growth. I think it had to take her realizing that this was a TV show and not a modeling competition to really sit with the facts of it. I will say Shandy and Ebony were so heartbroken, so heartbreaking to watch. Shandy cried the entire time. She just kept on wiping her tears. Tears were just streaming down her face the entire time she was talking about the documentary. She was talking about what happened to her in this documentary. She was just like, I wish they would have cut it. I wish somebody would have came in and stopped it. I remember why the reason why I believe her is because I remember feeling so uneasy about that whole scene. And I also remember the show cutting that scene out. Like back in the day, we used to have reruns. They don't have them anymore. But I remember watching the reruns and that scene heavily edited. Heavily edited. Shandy was not the same after that. She was just like, after that, I didn't care about the competition. I didn't want to win. I didn't care about anything. She was so different. And for me, it felt like it was more than a betrayal to her boyfriend. I was like, something happened to this girl. And to sit here 20 or so years later and to hear her say what happened to her, and I hate the fact that I was like, confirmation, because I knew that something was going on. To watch this show back and like not even watch the show back, but to like watch these people talk about this show, you feel so bad. Like, I feel so bad that I even watched this. Although I'm not taking responsibility for it. I don't care what the hell Tyra say. Tyra say, oh, I knew it was wrong, but you guys kept on demanding. None of our brains was fully developed. You were the adult. A lot of us couldn't even rent a car. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I said, me? I'm responsible? Really? My mom got a cosign for my mom had to be a cosign for anything I wanted to do. I didn't have a cell phone, but I'm responsible, Tyra. Okay, girl. Okay, I saw some guy's thread. Some guy threaded this comment, and he said, "Tyra is telling me that I'm responsible for all the mess that happened on this show." Tyra, I was 5. He was like, "Girl, don't put this on me," but she did not take responsibility for anything. And I just was like, not even, you see this 21-year-old girl, even if you believe that she was violated or not, you see that something has happened to her. You see she is not the same person. Everybody on that show knew that what happened fundamentally changed that girl. So for your next thought to be, let's put a camera in her face and let me tell her how about the time when I was cheated, how terrible that made me feel. And that was my fault. Okay, Tyra. Okay, Tyra. I will say that phone call with Shandy and her boyfriend, it's different now. It's different now. Danny, gorgeous. Danny looks the same. Them cheekbones haven't left her. She is stunning. She makes it to the documentary, and we see how her journey was on the show. I forgot that she was such a tomboy and such a country bumpkin. She does not sound the same way now, but my God, today, she was such a tomboy. Then they talk about Joni. We meet Joni. She was the one that got all of her teeth ripped out. And I remember watching that. That's another thing. Shandy, Ebony, Shandy, and Joni, and Keena. Those were the ones where I was just like, no. Like I was just like, something is not right. This is not entertaining. Something is wrong here. But when you're feeling that way, but everybody else is making it seem like it's okay, like you start to doubt yourself and be like, am I too Is this too deep for me? Am I doing too much? But I distinctly remember when that girl got them teeth, four teeth taken out of her head. I was just like, you need to call your mom. I remember watching that. I remember her cry. And I remember that dentist taking that tooth out of her mouth, that huge tooth. And I was just like, oh, you need to call your mama. I would have never. They said that she was in the dentist office for a full day getting the teeth pulled out. She got four teeth pulled out and had to go back to the competition. She said the very next day I had to do a photo shoot where we were crying, and she said my tears were real because I was in so much pain. How were they able to do it? Ken Mock was just like, oh, I couldn't believe it. When I watched it, I was just like, oh my gosh, she actually took her teeth out. You set that up. And you know what would have happened if she said no? She would have went home. Same thing that y'all did with Danny. That's what Danny said. Danny said they wanted to close her gap. And I remember Danny was just like, I don't want to let my gap go. And she said that basically, and they showed the scene where Tyra was just like, she gave her the picture and she took it back. And she's just like, are you going to get that gap fixed? And Danny was like, yeah, I want to get that gap fixed. And Danny was just like, I knew that if I didn't get the gap fixed, I was going to go home. She also was able to call her mom. And her mom was like, listen, if you don't do this, you're coming home. But if you come home, you got a place to stay. Like, you don't need them. You can come here. But just know what you're doing. So Danny decided to get her gap closed as well. She was in a dentist's office with Joni. And here's the thing. They casted her to take her teeth out. That Snaggletooth, they didn't see a model in her. She was content. She was content. They knew that they wanted to take those teeth out of that girl's mouth, and they knew that it would be huge because it was. It was such a big deal. Like, the makeovers were so big. And even Tyra said that. She was just like, every year we had to get a bit more ridiculous. We had to top what we were doing. So the makeovers, the meltdowns from the makeovers were one thing, but now we had to go even further. Cosmetic surgery? Cosmetic surgery? I will never forget being like, absolutely, my mother, child, absolutely not. Her teeth were this freaking big and they were pulling them out of her face. And that unprofessional dentist was pulling the teeth out and showing her and showing the camera. And she said before they did anything, she had to sign a form saying that she wouldn't sue. And she was just like, so, I'm screwed because the surgery, the dental surgery was quick, fast, and in a hurry. It wasn't even done correctly. She can't even bite. She has a huge issue with with biting in her jaw that she's still dealing with 20 years later. And she can't sue nobody because of what she signed. I would fight that if I were you, Joni. I would absolutely fight that. I would say you had to sign it under duress. You were coerced. I would fight that. And I hope you do. Guys, Bree. I got to bring up Bree. And let me get Danny and Bree's picture. I cannot believe I don't have Danny's picture or Bree's. Oh, she's so pretty. What a striking face she has. But when they were showing clips of her, I was just like, I do not remember Danny being this country or Kansas. You know who I also thought that they were going to have on there? Remember that Christian girl that wouldn't get naked? And Mr. J was so upset with her. She was just like, I don't want to do it. I do not want to do it. Absolutely not. Oh, here it is. OMG. So we see Bree, who I absolutely wanted to see more of. Bree was also a really huge part of why I loved America's Next Top Model so much, because Bree to me was so stunning. Like, I resonated with Ebony. I was enamored by Brie. I like I just I remember she came when she first came, she had these huge, beautiful curls. I to this day still that she thinks that she is one of the most beautiful people to walk this earth. And I wanted to see more of her. And we didn't get it. We didn't get it. But she did talk about just being very young in this process. And Brie was also somebody who was not treated fairly. Like they would make fun of her pictures when she had really, really beautiful pictures. But again, this is a TV show. So they can't, even if Brie is eating, they can't say that. So they gotta tear her down a peg because it's a TV show. You gotta get reactions. And a lot of the time the judges were poking and prodding because they wanted reactions out of the women. Then we meet Dion, who I don't remember, but Dion is absolutely gorgeous. She talks about how she told casting that her mother, when she auditioned, she told them that her mother was a victim of gun violence. Her ex boyfriend shot her and paralyzed her. She was in a wheelchair. And she said, they took that from my audition and used that against me. And when they had to do this photo shoot where the women were posing as dead bodies, she said, I knew that they gave me the gunshot victim because they wanted me to have a reaction because of what happened to my mother, but I made sure not to give it to them. A young girl, early 20s, has to figure all this out, has to clock the fact that a show is trying to traumatize her for a reaction. She said, I'm so proud that I didn't give them what they wanted. My God, today. And that is the only thing that Kim Bach took responsibility for. He was just like, I'm looking back and I realized that was stupid. I shouldn't have done it. Ciao. LA is going to be a mess in the spring. They ready to be outside. Anyway, we meet her as well. I don't remember her season. I think that's when I checked out. I think that's when I checked out. You know who I thought we were going to talk about? I thought they were going to talk about the girl whose friend had just died the day before. Then she had to do a photo shoot as a dead body in the casket, and she was breaking down crying in the casket. I thought we were going to talk about her. There were so many people I wanted to talk about, but we just did not. They just didn't show all of it, and maybe they just didn't have the resources because I felt like this needed to be a series. It really, really, really does, in my opinion. Then we get to the race swapping, and Mr. J was just like, I did not want to do it. He got to stop with that Botox. But anyway, he was just like, I did not want to do it. I knew that this was wrong. And he was just like, everybody knew that this was wrong because nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to like film the race swapping episode. He was just like, listen, I am did he say black? I, swirly person from South Africa. Even I knew that race swapping was not a smart thing to do. And he was just like, he talked to Tyra, he talked to production about it, and they were just like, oh, it'll be fine. Just go and do it. So he was just like, I was left to lead those I was left to lead that segment and I did not want to do it. We all knew that it was wrong. And Tyra was just like, you have to realize that was a different time. That was a different time. And when we did that, we had no idea what that was going to cause such a reaction. And she said when we put the episode in, when we put that episode out, everybody was really angry. And I was like, oh, now I know that was wrong. Tyra, in the early, mid, late 2000s, everybody knew that blackface was wrong. I remember some of the models talking about it. Remember that one, they showed that one white girl who was so happy to be a sister. I'm like, Tyra, you knew that was wrong. Tyra would not take responsibility for anything. Here's the thing. They did the race swapping because they wanted a reaction. That's it. They wanted a reaction from the women. They wanted a reaction from the audience. They wanted outrage. That's why they did it They won't admit it, but that's exactly why they did race swapping. Because if you guys got such an outrage, and Tyra, if you realized during the race swapping was so wrong, why did you do it again a couple seasons later? They wanted outrage. They wanted outrage. Then we talked to Kenya. She is the black model with the very pronounced jawline. I distinctly remember her because the show kept on trying to convince her that she was convince us and Kenya that she was fat. That girl was like a zero. And I remember that show tried to give her an eating disorder. I remember Janice telling her not to eat, to stop eating. Yikes. Yikes. But and I also remember Kenya was talking about a photo shoot that she did with two male models, and there was one male model that kept on grabbing her body, and she did not like it. She did not like it. She spoke about it on when she spoke about it when she was on set, and she told Mr. J and Nigel. She told them how she felt. Here's the thing: Kenya was just like, I felt like from what we know about Tyra and how she represents herself and how she tells us to be, I thought that if I spoke up, that would be something that Tyra would have done. So the guy, and I distinctly remember this, the guy was over her the entire photo shoot. I looking back at it now, I feel like production was pressing that because I think they saw something with the guy trying to flirt with her and her being uncomfortable. They went with that storyline. And you could even see there was the design crew was trying to force this interaction with Kenya and one of the male models. And while they were filming, this male model was touching her body. Y'all remember that? And she stopped it and she didn't feel comfortable. And she tells them that she doesn't feel comfortable, all for Mr. J and Nigel to coerce her to go back into the photo shoot. And I remember, and they showed this in the documentary, I remember that single tear that fell from her face because she was defeated. She told them that she did not like how this man was touching on her body and the way. Remember, he had them little panties on, and he was grinding up behind her, and she kept on running up. She told them that first of all, they watched this happen. That's how I know they watched what happened to Shandy. So if any of them were trying to act like they didn't know what was going on, they knew, because here we have with Kenya. She's telling them, with this man is making me feel uncomfortable. The sexual innuendo, I don't like it. And I don't feel comfortable. They tell her that's the business. And to get back in there and do the photo shoot, then when she does the photo shoot, crying, they look at her pictures and critique her and tell her that she could have done better. She's getting a penis rammed in her backside that she doesn't want. She's telling two people who she thinks is supposed to protect her, and they're telling her, take it in stride. That's the business. So you mean to tell me, which we have come to find out is very accurate, they're getting sexually assaulted in the modeling world? It's something that is a part of the business. They were a little too on the nose with America's Next Top Model and how it represents the real modeling world. But I remember that, child. I remember that. Then we talked to Whitney, who was the first plus size model of America's Next Top Model. Still sickening. Still sickening. I felt like Whitney wanted to say more, but because Whitney has had some kind of success because of the show, I felt like she was holding back. One thing she did say, she said, I remember watching Takara. And I remember when she was on her go-see, they were complaining about how stuff did not fit her. She was too big for the stuff. And she says, I remember Takara, and they showed the scene. Takara was just like, you knew I was coming here. So why don't you have clothes that would accommodate me? You knew that I was coming here. You knew my sizes. I get here, and all you're telling me is that I'm too big. But you knew I was too big before you came in a room. And Whitney was talking about how she was on a go see and the same thing was happening. And she said, I felt so uncomfortable because, again, just like Takara, they knew I was coming. So what was this? What is this whole song and dance about how I can't fit anything? Why didn't you have anything ready? But she said, I also remembered that when Takara spoke up, she was eliminated the next day. And Whitney said, so I learned to just shut up and take it. Again, yes, that may be the modeling world, but that scene with the plus size girl not being to fit anything, that was production. They made those designers or whoever say that they're too big and they don't have any clothes to fit them. They made the designers look at them and say, you need to be a size 2 to work runway. Yes, that is the modeling world. They absolutely manipulated that scene to get a reaction out of her. Because the reason why they did it was because they got a reaction out of Takara. So they wanted to do the same thing to Whitney. But Whitney said, I learned from Takara. I'm going to shut up because I'm going to go far. And she ended up winning. Let's get into the final episode 3. I will say this. We get into Tyra and Tiffany. You know Tiffany from the iconic I was rooting for you speech. Tiffany had been on the show previously the year before. She was cut from the show for fighting. But Tyra, for some reason, really, really liked her. And Tyra, we cut to Tyra in her confessional, and she's saying that she wanted to help her. She said, I know where she's from. I was from there too. And I wanted to help her because I would have wanted that same kind of help. And she said this was what for Tyra, Tiffany was what America's Next Top Model was for. She said, I wanted someone like that to do well on this show because that is what I wanted to do as a Black woman in this industry. Now, I'm going to give it to Tyra here. I think she had good intentions when she started this show. I think fame and greed ate her up. Because here's the thing. Yes, she was a supermodel. Yes, she was iconic. She wasn't Naomi Campbell. Right? She couldn't really dominate in that lane because there was Naomi. In this lane, she was the only one. She could dominate. Nobody could catch her. So I think because she was winning in this lane and she was the only one in this lane, I think her calls got lost in the applause. As she started getting popular for America's Next Top Model, her wanting to help these young women took a back seat to her exploiting them for views. She put everything on the network. But here's the thing. This is your show, your baby. You sold it to them. Unfortunately, right? When you do that, it's theirs. Now, could you walk away if you feel like the show is harming these women? Absolutely. But you didn't do that. And here is where it takes a turn with her and Tiffany. So she really zeroed in on Tiffany and she was just like, no, I want to bring her back. I want to help her. I do believe she wanted to do that. The problem is you can't say you want to help Tiffany while actively exploiting her. And that's what Tiffany felt like. The show kept on exploiting her. Having Tiffany get up there to read, knowing that she was struggling a bit, and then lie and say, you're reading better than all these other women. No, you guys wanted to paint this narrative that she is this dumb, poor Black woman from the hood, and you guys are giving her the best opportunity in the world. Now, maybe it started off like that. And Tiffany felt like that as well. She was I remember watching this. She was very thankful, but she had a lot of stuff going on. And the show exploiting her did not help. So when Tiffany got cut and they were just like, this has never happened before, Tiffany and another girl were sent home together. Tyra wanted Tiffany to stay, but Tiffany was just not fighting anymore. And when Tyra tells Tiffany and the other girl that they're both going home, Tiffany goes over and hugs everybody. And she's just like, don't worry about it. I'm going to be okay. Tyra took it as her being nonchalant. Tiffany was like, I was over it. I was defeated. I was done. She had gotten tired of being made a mockery of and then disguising it as trying to help her. So Tyra calls her, says, Tiffany, what's going on? You could have won this thing. And I think that's what really shifted with her, right? She wanted her to win. But Tyra has to also be honest with herself. Yes, you wanted her to win because you wanted to help her. You also wanted her to win because what it will look like for you. What it will look like to see this black, how the show is filming her, poorly educated woman, single mom from the hood. Look at her now. Look at what we were able to do. We were able to make Cinderella. We were able to take her from, the poor maid to a princess. You guys wanted to exploit her further. Tiffany clocked that and was just like, I'm done. And when she realized no matter what she did, y'all weren't going to let her go, she checked out of the show until you had no choice but to let her go. Because if you continued to keep her, people were going to say the show was rigged. But Tiffany was just like, I don't want to be used by these people anymore. So she checked out. I honestly believe Tiffany would have won that competition. They wanted her to win. Tiffany didn't play the game because she did not want to be exploited anymore. That's why Tyra got upset. Yes, you were rooting for her. Yes, you were all rooting for her because of what that would have looked like had that woman won the show. You all would have got accolades for bringing her up out of the ghetto and making her a model. Knowing good and well, after the show, you were going to throw her back to the hood. You were upset that Tiffany clocked you and saw your next move and quit before you could do anything about it. You wanted her to beg. You wanted her to be like, I'm so thankful for this opportunity. I would have never had nothing like this had you not saved me. I probably would have been on crack. That's what you wanted, and she didn't give you that. So Tyra cussed her out. We all remember it. And Nigel was just like, everybody was so scared because that was real. We had never seen her like that before. And he was just like, all we know is that when Tyra was done, she walked off. When she was done screaming at her, he was like, she walked off. Like, we were done for that day after that. And there was one guy, I forget his name, he was holding a dog. He was one of the judges. He says, all I know is the next day, Legal was on set. Tyra had crossed the line and Legal was there to make sure everybody was on their P's and Q's. But then we get footage of Tiffany in that scene who was just like, you don't really care about me. Stop saying that. You don't. If you cared about me, you wouldn't have talked about me like that. You wouldn't have treated me like. And Tiffany was right. Tiffany knew she was being exploited and she was absolutely over it. Tyra was mad that her little makeover story, her little rags to riches story left. Her storyline left. That's what pissed her off. Tiffany was going to win that season. But she messed up the storyline. Tyra couldn't get the hero edit because Tiffany was done. Then we have Mr. J, who is talking about how he can't take it anymore, all the stuff that the show is doing. He knows it's wrong and he wants to leave. He writes an email to Tyra and he tells her, hey, I'm done. I want off this roller coaster. He says, she writes back to me 3 words. I am disappointed. And never talked to me again. He said the next day, and he said 3 days later, I get a call from the show's lawyer asking me to stay and basically telling me that if I don't, in more than lesser a few words, I won't work in this town again. So he was basically blackmailed to stay on another season. But he continued to stay after that season. He was just like, he went to set. Tyra wouldn't talk to him. She didn't talk to him until the cameras came on. And he was like, I was sitting there. He was like, I tried to talk to her, but she would not speak to me. And then as soon as the cameras came on, she always started talking to me. He said, I was so confused. And they showed the scene where he like didn't know what was going on because he was just like, she wouldn't speak to me the whole time. And she was just like, after we were filming, she wouldn't talk to me. He was like, that's how it was for a very long time. And I realized that I was just there to fulfill my contract and nothing else. They removed me from creative, and I was just an on air personality. And he was like, that's just how it was. But I will say this, Mr. J, you stayed for a few more seasons after that to the point where they had to fire you. So you said that you were going to do one more season, and you ended up doing um, additional seasons. Um, he also lets us know, Mr. J also lets us know. And when he said this, I was just like confirmation, because me and my friends used to always say they are not picking the best pictures. He said that it's a TV show. At the beginning, middle, and end of the day, it's a TV show. To you, it's a competition. To us, it's a TV show. We are producing a TV show, and we have to have a storyline. So some girls that probably shouldn't have stayed longer because they had a better story than the girls who were better than them. So the girls who are better than them, we would pick terrible pictures to eliminate them because we have to keep the girl that had the story. You're not getting the best of the best. You're not getting the best of the best. So he was just like, and then he was like, he said, oftentimes they had great pictures, but we had to pick the worst ones to justify the elimination. I said I knew it because there were so many times when I was looking at those pictures, when I was like watching the girls in their photo shoot, I'm like, there's no way you didn't get a good pick. And they used to always say that. They used to always be like, this was the best pick out of all of them. And I was like, no way. No way. Especially my girl. She was golden, like that guy that had a crush on me. If you were in my last live in middle school, she was golden all the way around. She had golden hair, golden eyes, golden eyebrows, golden skin. She never took a bad picture. And the pictures that they will put out about her to get her out the game, I was like, no way. Y'all lying. That girl never took, even today, she never takes a bad picture. They lied on my girl. They lied on my girl. Then we get back to Danny, and she tells us how, she won America's Next Top Model, and she was just like, it was really hard for her to break into the modeling world because it was a stigma. She said as soon as the show was over, she moved into a modeling dorm, and she was there with Chanel Iman, and she was just like, all the other girls would go out on go sees. I wouldn't. The agencies wouldn't call. I wouldn't get called out of castings. Nothing. I would just be in the dorm. Like I would never get called out. And she said Chanel Iman asked their agent, like, why isn't Danny being called out on go sees like the rest of us? And the agent basically told her, we just have to keep Danny here. Like she's not like you girls. Basically saying they just have to fulfill their contract. They don't really see Danny as a model. And Danny and other models were talking about that. The ones who had won or the ones who became runner up. She was just like, Joni was like, Tyra told me to come out to New York, knowing good and well I wasn't going to work. Like these girls had a stigma on them from reality TV. Because again, guys, reality TV became big because of the writer's strike. So anybody who was doing it, it was like a stain was on them. And nobody wanted to work with them because they were essentially looked at as people who were screwing over unions. So nobody really wanted to put their hands on reality TV like that. Now it's a totally different thing. You can become a huge star from a reality TV show. Back then, you were blackballed after the reality TV show. So Danny was just like, I was just there because the agency had to fulfill a contract that they had with the TV, with the network. But when that contract was up, they didn't care about me. But I will say this, Danny, I remember seeing you everywhere. Danny was booking a lot of jobs. But she said later she just, got out of the industry because it just wasn't successful for her. And she was just really disappointed in that because she really thought, like the way the show bigged it up, she really thought that she was going to make it. And then she says that Tyra actually called her years later, 15 years later. Tyra called her, I guess, to apologize. And I think Tyra called her around 2020. around COVID when everybody was watching America's Next Top Model, because she mentions it. I think she called her when everybody was watching America's Next Top Model and saying how horrible she is as a person. I think she started calling all of them to apologize so that this all could smooth over. Because everybody in the house, we're watching this show because there's nothing else to do. People are rewatching the show. People who had never watched the show before were just like, this lady is awful. So she's covering all her bases. So she called Danny to apologize for her and to apologize to her for not helping her. And she said that Tyra told her, I knew there were so many doors that you were not going to be able to get through. And I didn't help you. And Danny said, F you. She said, to be a Black woman and see me suffering, and instead of pulling me out of my suffering, you just walk right by me. F you. Tyra, stay in Australia, child. Stay in Australia. That broke me. Dana was just like, she knew I wanted that. And she could have helped me, and she didn't. And that's the thing that Tyra has to answer for. You could have helped. Why didn't you? Not only was Tyra Banks the supermodel at the time, she was a huge talk show host. She had a bunch of shows. She was doing a lot of stuff. Tyra had power. She just did not use it. Even like she told Danny, I didn't help you. I did not help you. Then we later find out that Tyra gets a call from the network and they tell her to trim the fat, basically. And the fat was Nigel, Mr. J, and Miss J. And Tyra was just like, they were all so mad at me, but I was told that I had to do that by the network. And here is where Tyra messed up. She's messed up a lot, right? But here is when the boys club always lets you know your place. Because Tyra did whatever the network told her to do. She would do it, right? Any decision they wanted, she would do it. The only time they ever talked about her fighting was for the Latina girl for season 1. I think Tyra realized what this was and how big this show was getting. And again, I think she wanted to help. However, the applause became greater than her calls. And so she bent the knee. She said yes to things. She did some things. She did outrageous stuff. The show got crazier and crazier. And the girls just kept on being thrown by the wayside. But she was chasing the applause, not the calls. And for a while, it was working, right? She was top dog, big dog. Then the network tells her, we don't want basically the stars of your show on the show anymore because the show was doing bad. I don't believe this. I believe what happened was the network purposefully tanked her show. They do this all the time. They do this all the time. There are so many shows that are on top and the network will cancel them. They'll say, oh, we're restructuring. Oh, we don't have the budget for it anymore. Oh, it's not doing good in the ratings. Let us see the ratings. Oh, we can't release them. The show is done. Move on. What happens is there's always an agenda. What happened was America's Next Top Model got too big. There were America's Next Top Models all over the globe. A show created by a Black woman, produced by an Asian man, with the people of color cast, making all of these non-white, gay women popular. You cannot give them that much access because the hands of power will change. Look what's happening to Jasmine Crockett, right? Look what happened to Kamala Harris. Look what happened to Hillary. You cannot do that. So what they did was Since Tyra bent the knee and said yes to all of that, they knew they could get her to do whatever, even stab her friends in the back. So they say the show ain't doing well. Get rid of Miss J, Mr. J, and Nigel. Foolish. Foolish. We were watching for them. Tyra was great as well, but they were in ensemble and we were watching for them. America's Next Top Model was doing very well. So then she fires them, gets rid of them, and they're all heartbroken. The show tanks. So she's trying to do all this crazy stuff to save the show, but there's no way you can save a show that was intentionally undermined. So they made all this money off of you, got you in a place where you look like the bad guy and take your power. And you are the bad guy because you said yes when you could have said no. You could have walked. You could have said, I'm going to take this show to somebody else. If you don't want it, let me have it. I'll take it to somewhere else. And we'll do something different. We'll do something bigger. We'll do something better. But you bent the knee. You thought you were a part of the boys club. And then the boys club let you know you will never sit at this table. Because after Tyra did all the things the network wanted her to do, what did they do? They fired her and cast a white woman. Because that's what they wanted to do at the beginning. They didn't want a show that looked like that in the hands of people that look like that doing that well. They didn't want it at all. And the fact that it did so well, they let it get big, then they took it from her and gave it to a white woman. Little did they know, nobody wanted to see a white woman lead America's Next Top Model. Nobody wanted to, everybody wanted the Jays. They wanted Nigel. They wanted Tyra. And so the show eventually gets canceled. I want to talk about Nigel for a minute. Sweet guy, right? I'm not here for the, at the time what we were doing, it wasn't great, but this was the industry. This was the show. No, you were an adult, but you were in your 30s when you were cast on America's Next Top Model. A husband and a father. You knew that stuff was wrong. You saw Keena cry and say that she was uncomfortable, and yet you still encouraged her to stay in that shoot. What we are not going to do is throw everything on Tyra and make her the bad guy. Same thing with Mr. J. It worked for you until it didn't work for you. Oh, I didn't want to do these things, but you still did them. Even Miss J, who I love, nobody forced you to say the things that you said. I will give it to Miss J. I think that out of everybody, Miss J was the kindest and the one that I enjoyed the most, that we all enjoyed the most. But here is the thing. Tyra's not going to take responsibility. Ken Mock is not going to take responsibility. And neither are the judges. So who's responsible then? The audience? The 5 to 18-year-old audience that was watching this freaking show? They were the problem? The college kids? The freshmen? The junior high kids? They were the ones who were telling you guys to rip that girl's teeth out of her face? They were the ones telling you guys to shave off that girl's hair and then eliminate her the next day and send her home bald? When she said in her casting, her hair was her glory? They were the ones telling you to tell a girl that's a size 0 that she's fat? Tell an 18-year-old that she has wide hips and something is wrong with her body? Tell a dark-skinned black woman that not only is she aggressive, her skin is rough? We did that? Everybody is responsible. Everybody at that show is responsible. The cameramen who went up to Shandy and said, oh, we're sorry we had to film it. You didn't. You didn't. Here is the thing. Integrity costs the price, especially in an evil industry. You stand up for yourself, maybe you won't work, but at least you get to sleep at night. Now you're sitting on this documentary telling everybody all the awful things that you not only did, but witnessed and didn't say anything. And you want us to feel sympathy. You didn't say anything until the machine that you participated in turned on you. Why are you shocked? You watched it happen to those young women. You thought you were different? The devil has no favorites. It's equal opportunity. Although I love those guys on the show, and I don't feel like they're necessarily bad people, I did not like how they were acting like they were held at gunpoint to do those things. I don't like them blaming the time. I don't like them blaming the industry. You still participated in the foolishness, and you are letting us know that you knew at that time and now that that behavior was wrong. You're an accessory. You're not a victim. You cash them UPN checks gladly. You guys are not victim. You watch them eliminate people only for you to be eliminated next. The Reaper will come for you eventually. It is what it is. Then we get into Miss J. And now I realize why we haven't seen Miss J for such a long time. Because I have been looking for Miss J. We find out that Miss J had a stroke. Miss J had a stroke that had him in a coma for about 3 months. He couldn't walk or talk. He is currently living in a care facility because he cannot walk currently, but he is able to talk. And although he's able to talk, you can see that he was struggling with some things sometimes. So he was just making a lot of his, facial expressions that he is known for. What a pleasure to have met somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like, I loved Miss J, and it's absolutely saddening what has happened to him. He talks about how Nigel and Mr. J came to visit him, and then we see them all together, and they're just like, "You look so good now." And Miss J was like, "You couldn't even talk the last time we seen you. Look at you, look at you. You're talking and up the hair." Miss J was like, "Yeah, it is." And then they asked Miss J if Tyra has ever visited. He went, "No, not yet, but I love Miss J. I love Miss J. And I love how positive Miss J was. Miss J was just like, "Listen, I'm not walking, but I will soon. I wasn't talking before, I'm talking now. I'll be walking." But then he put his hand on his legs and he says, "I was the queen of catwalk. And now I can't walk." And his voice started breaking. And I was like, "Oh, I have been crying this whole documentary. I can't cry no more." Then we cut to this scene where Mr. J and Nigel are encouraging him, and he starts breaking down, and they start hugging him. And I'm like, this is so sad, because it could have been a great show. If Tyra would have just stuck to her calls, it could have been a really great show. If she would have just stuck to the calls and didn't chase the applause, you wouldn't be sitting here in this documentary with so much regret. You would have been surrounded by all those women whose lives you changed. But instead, you're the villain in everyone's story, just not your own. My God, today. And for all of this nonsense, for all of this heartbreak, I sat there for 3 hours and watched one episode after the other, and I bawled my eyes out. All for Tyra to sit there and say, "I made some mistakes, but I won't make the same ones for cycle 25. Is it crack? Is it crack? What do you mean, Cycle 25? Netflix, you better not touch this. What do you mean? You think we want to see you be in charge of young women? We saw what you did the last time. Why do you think we would want to trust you with another generation? All these women are in their 40s on this documentary, broken. Every 5 seconds, Giselle was crying. Shanny, a stream of tears. Danielle held it together to the very end when she recounted that call where you told her you could have, but you decided not to help her. Ebony kept on breaking. And you want to do that again? You think we will let you? The kids that you blamed, we're grown now. We're grown now. No way. No way is this lady trying to do another cycle. Why did you agree to this documentary? You look terrible. You look terrible. All she kept on saying is, I know now, but back then you were talking about how black girls can't get in the room. All to have your best friend talk about how ugly a black girl is. And for you to call her and tell her she ashy. And that she's rough. Her skin is rough. Her personality is rough. But you want to open the doors for black girls. What kind of black girls? Oh, the ones that look like you. Okay. Okay. I will say this. Even though Tyra is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I think she did want to help. I think there was something in her in the beginning who really did want to help. The calls got tainted. The calls got tainted. Everything went to her head. And I honestly think it's because she created her own lane that she could dominate. Naomi was in her shadow now. She wasn't in Naomi's shadow. And I think that's what it was. And it became more about her and not about helping the women, the young girls on this show. And that's where she went astray. If she would have just stuck to helping and just wanting to be a help because of her experience, I think the show would not only still be on, but I think she would be respected, not hiding out in Australia because she probably, doesn't want to get sued if she comes back to America. So I'm like, why are you in Australia of all places? What's going on? Why are you over there? Uh-huh. Lawsuits. Lawsuits. Um what did Danny said something. Danny said something to her. Danny said there was something where I think Tyra gave like this big speech about how she was trying to help or whatever, and then you got to Danny at the end of the documentary says, "Girl, f you, girl, please, like stop with all that them pageant answers. You are not a good person." And it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate because Tyra became the monster that she was trying to slay, pun intended, and so did everybody else. So did everybody else. You guys lost sight of what this show was supposed to be. Yes, the network helped poison it. You could have walked away. You could have walked away. But that's the price that you pay. You walk away, the show probably never comes back, right? Your integrity, it's great. It's a good thing to have. You probably won't work in the industry that you love so much. Unfortunately, I have so much more to say, but that's it. I've talked enough. That's all I have to say. What do you guys have to say? Let's get into it. I boo hooed 3 hours straight. 3 hours straight. 3 hours straight. Hey, Pepe. Pepe says, "Hey, Star fam, so excited for this recap. Oh, Tyra, I used to love this show. Child, you and me both. What the hell is going on? Oh my God. Child. I think StreamYard did an update. Um, Two is for life said Danny stayed clocking Tyra this whole documentary. She can't stand that lady. None of them can. None of them can. And even for Tyra to be like, well, I didn't get it right all the time, but we have so many successful ladies. We have Whitney. She's, a huge model. She named like 4 girls. And I'm like, you had damn near 100 cycles. Only 4 of those girls were successful. Only 2 are probably still working. That's a failure. That's nothing to brag about. There should have been multiple girls from each cycle who are flooding the industry. You got one every 6 seasons. That's a failure. And Whitney, or Winnie, is it Winnie Harlan? Whatever. I heard she's a mean girl child. She talks about how she had to distance herself from America's Next Top Model to actually work. Child. Namal said, I'm not excusing Tyra's behavior, but I'm just pointing out that not every girl had issues with her. That's true. Cameron said, I heard that ice cream is nasty. People said it's just hot chocolate. I don't know what's going on with Tyra though. Always Prices said, I can't get with it. Tyra wanted to be perceived as the good one, but her core was not good. So her real fruit was shown in every action. Child. Zora said this season we'll be putting the Black and queer youth around red pillars and aspiring trad wives. It would be disastrous. I hope she don't do it. Oh, ghetto. My tag is still on. I briefly went into World Market. Child, they got a lot of stuff in clearance. And I went a little crazy. I'll get it off later. Simone says Tyra thinks woke Gen Z is going to sign up for even support another cycle. Sure, Jan. They already packed her up. You know what? There will be people who will do it. There will be somebody who will do it. We got a super chat from Callie Steve. Hey, my love. Callie Steve said Kyra deserves all the wrath that's coming to her. But what about the producers, network heads that pulled the strings and made millions? I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the Epstein files. I didn't want to say it, Steve, but since you did. Ciao. Since they wanted to keep it so accurate to the industry, I want to see that documentary. Thank you for the super chat, Steve. Social Steph said, I feel so bad for her. I know what it feels like to be in that position and everybody act like it's business as usual. I believe you're talking about Shanny. I'm telling you, I remember that. And I was like, this is different. This is different. Ephraim said, yes, Nikki, it was a very emotional watch, horrifying. Here's the thing. They did not advertise the documentary like that. I'm thinking we're getting some insider tea, behind the scenes drama, sexual assault, manipulate. What is happening? Stroke. It was just sad after sad after sad after sad. I had to go to World Market, child. Horrible. Horrible, Tia. Absolutely horrible. Realities TV said this was the longest soft launch ever for something we don't want. I think that's the only reason why she agreed to do it. because she wants to do cycle 25. That's the only reason why she wanted to do it. And she wanted to be a part of it so she could tell her side. But girl, that didn't work for you. That did not work for you. And she couldn't talk about Mr. J. They asked her about Mr. J. And she was just like, no, I have to call him. I can't talk about it. Now you want to call him and talk about it. Ciao. Hey, who's girly? Thank you for being here. Hey, authentically Bria. Hannah said the documentary made me want to not watch any reality TV show. Here's the thing, y'all. Do y'all understand what I be saying now? That's how it is. That's why I always tell you guys, unless I'm the executive producer, I am not giving my body, image, or likeness over to a reality TV show. They are absolutely going to exploit you. And that's why they want you young. That's why they want you young, child. Kate says, nope, not isolated at all. Plug for, huh? Nope, not isolated at all. Plug for Barrett Powell, who talks a lot about the awful stuff he experienced in the industry. He truly is such a doll. Who is that? You know what? Let me check Threads because I think I follow him. I do. Yes. He talks about this all the time. He's such a nice person. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Hannah said none of them took any accountability, especially Tyra and Miss J. Nope, it was the network. Okay, but the network can't keep y'all on the show. Y'all can leave, and you can take your IP with you. The speckled one said they need to have more girls. I want the girls who urinated in the diaper. Speaking of urination, the documentary that I need to see is MTV's Next and MTV's Date My Daughter. I need to find the girl who peed on herself to get out of a date on MTV's Next. I talk about that episode all the time. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. She hated that guy so much he would not cut her, so she peed on herself. She was just like, since this is the only way I think you're going to cut me, I'm just going to pee on myself. He was like, what are you doing? And she started peeing. I need to see that. Where is she now? I know she's somebody mama. Cam said Miss J and Mr. J and Nigel little friendship was cute to me, LOL. Showing up for someone in the hospital and throughout recovery is a big deal. Yeah, I was happy that they were all still close. I love that, but they are not victims. Cameron said, hey, Nikki and Thor family. I was a huge fan of America's Next Top Model back in the day. And plus who is your cousin? Wait a minute. Danny is your cousin? Danny's your cousin? Cameron, tell her that we love her. And we need her to tell her to let me interview her. Make it happen, Cameron. Make it happen. Dear Diary said, Nikki, as an almost 42-year-old Black woman, Tyra gave bully and dismissive. Now, did she give you that 20 years ago? Come on, she was that girl. She was that girl. You remember back in the day, especially the 90s, models ruled the world back then. I will never forget being upset that I couldn't go to the Supermodel Cafe. I wanted my mom to take me so bad, and she was like, no, we're not going. She was like, they're models. The food's going to be nasty anyway. Give Me Shelter said, I wonder if it was a legal strategy to deny the severity of everything that happened on the show for Mock and Banks. Absolutely. The speckled one said, I was confused when she said she wasn't a producer, but she was a great editor. So you did see all the footage and had a say in what would air. She did this show to cover her own bases. Give Me Shelter said UPN was so much fun back in the day. I miss UPN, WB, and the CW. I'm old enough to remember the Prism Station, which I missed as well. I don't even like hockey, but I miss Prism. Prism was that girl too. She had me cry, like travailing. My body was shaking. I could. She came up on the screen. I could feel her sorrow. Ugh. Hannah said they preyed on these teenage girls and traumatized them. So sad. Yes. And I wanted to, I think I have Shandy's comment saved here. She did an update, and I want to read it with you guys. Um, it's so easy to love you. Let me bring it up. It's so easy to love you. It's so, oh, here it is. Because you're wonderful. It's so easy to love you. I will say, I love seeing all the women on America's Next Top Model older. You know, some are moms, some are business owners, icons. I love this. Giselle's. She's like, I'm in theater now. I did real estate. I hated it. Now I'm a theater kid. I just love seeing them as women. Like we got to watch them grow up and exist. What a privilege it is to just age, to be able to grow. I love seeing all of them. That warms my little heart. Shandy said, well, the documentary is out, and now you know more of my story. After all the years, the top model After all of the years, the top model girls and what we went through were never forgotten. The first picture of me is going right back to work at Walgreens, fresh with a makeover and a secret that had to wait to air. I smiled through it, knowing that my friends, my family, Eric's family, and strangers were going to know what I had done and what had happened to me. At the age of 43, I continue to struggle with it, always smiling. That's why I took this opportunity, knowing that Tyra didn't have control over my narrative, that the director and producers here had my back. That's why I did it. I did it for me because I mattered, and I still do. The love I felt today has been immense. Thank you for everyone that heard me. Oh my God. Props to her. I'm so proud of her. Spency said, I know exactly what you mean. It was sad realizing the contestants went through so much. We used to have so much fun. Yes, you feel like bad, like being like, oh my God, that was a great moment, only to hear from the contestant and being like, that moment broke me and followed me the rest of my life. I remember the comments, I think it was from Janice when Giselle walked, and she had this because she has wide hips. Okay, girl, so does Beyonce, and she works it. But I remember the audio of her walking and Janice saying she got some wide hips and the show zooming in on her hips. I remember chuckling at that and being like, oh, she do got some wide hips. Only to hear this woman saying that at 18 years old, that changed her. Harry that gave her such insecurities that even today, as a woman, a grown woman, I think late 30s, early 40s, she still feels some way about her body from from that comment, that one comment that I thought was funny. It's still affecting her today. Ah, that's what took him out. The Me Too movement. That's what took out a lot of them guys. And thank you to Tarana Burke, because had we not, if we didn't have her, we wouldn't have been able to get to these files. It always starts with a black woman. They never want to give us our credit, though. Yes, Julie Chen Moonves. She let us know. Indigo said Julie Chen ate her word. She came after Bill Cosby's wife for saying when her man was up, she ran and left the view. Yep. Is she still on Big Brother? Cameron said Les Moonves was the one who blackballed Janet Jackson after the Super Bowl mishap because Les had a personal vendetta against Michael Jackson and he went after his sister. Absolutely. I want to know who that Latina girl was and what was his issue. Hannah said he didn't want an Afro Latina. He was okay. Oh, I didn't know she was Afro Latina. Wow. Cameron said Les Moonves ruined a lot of people's lives in Hollywood. There are so many shows that have been snatched off the air because of him. So many careers got ruined because of him. Yep. Priscilla said, "Yeah, we happily enjoyed the show at the time, thinking these girls were having a blast. When behind the scenes, it was psychological torture. So it feels like simultaneous nostalgia and whiplash. That is the perfect way to express how I felt and am still feeling from watching that. It was nostalgia, whiplash, and just great guilt for enjoying somebody's torture. Um, Give Me Shelter said it's a triangulation of the part on the part of white people. Test the black woman, Tyra, by pressuring her to close the door to a woman of color. Didn't even see it like that. They're still doing it. But reverse though, what would the woman of color do? That's really, really good. Callie B said, replay gang. Nikki, what do you use in your hair? It's so slick back, gorgeous. Thank you. First of all, I have fine hair, and I've lost a lot of my hair from due to stress from the writer strike. So it's real easy to slick this back when you're not dealing with much. But I use edge control, the pink stuff, Kiss. Let me make sure it's right. I'm sorry, it's called Edge Fixer. Edge Fixer by Kiss. Keep in mind, again, fine here and a lot is gone. It's coming back thanks to Sacred. Um, Hannah said they tried to make Ebony lose her self-esteem. Yes, that's exactly what it was. They were breaking down the dark-skinned black girl because how the hell are you this dark-skinned black woman with this buzz cut, gay, loving who you are, not dulling yourself, not dulling your light for anyone, with your wide nose and your full lips. How dare you be proud of that in a society that makes you a pariah? That's exactly what they did. They wanted to break her. Ebony, Two is for Life said Ebony was a trailblazer in her own right, whether she realized it or not. I hate that she was outed, but at that time it was great. It was great seeing a black woman on television. Exactly. I'm watching this now. I'm watching the documentary and being like, oh my God, I hate that that happened to you. It was revolutionary for me. Like it changed. That fundamentally changed me. I was able to see this gay relationship in all its beauty, not villainized by the media, because that's normally what you would see. But to know that she was suffering during that, oh my God, today, at all. Zora said Tyra didn't protect the black contestants at all, and that's what the show was supposed to be about, right? The show, she said she wanted to open up doors for black girls, but if you're doing the show, you got to do it for everybody, right? But that was her goal. And the first black girl she get on the show, you abuse her. But you're making great TV. Give Me Shelter said Tyra is a piece of work. No words. An executive producer. Mop, who did you vote for? It could have been great. It could have been great. Simone said those stylists who worked on Ebony's hair better not be still working today. Otherwise, the internet rightfully will come with torches. I don't know. How old would they be? They seemed long in the tooth back then. E for Empathy said, I can't imagine being let down by another black woman on a platform like this. Tyra had zero shame. Zero. Two is for Life said, it's really sad hearing all of these beautiful black women talk about how much they love Tyra before the experience. I guess it's true. They say, never meet your heroes. Absolutely. Priscilla said, Tyra is just another older black woman in corporate. Never wants a young black woman to succeed or surpass her. And also wants that young black woman to suffer how she suffered. Spitzy said, I always wanted the jacket, but had the baby fat halter top. I wanted that too. Here's the thing. I've always had huge melons. I couldn't do it. I wanted that, but the girls were big back then, child. Big back then. But that sweatsuit, no, I'm glad I gave it away. I'm glad I gave it away. That was my outfit. That was my outfit. And I used to wear these I love being a kid. I used to wear it with these reflective Skechers. You couldn't tell me nothing. I wanted to wear it with Tim's, like the girls in New York City, but Tim's are too heavy for me. Even to this day, I cannot wear Tim's. If you guys, for those of you who watched my vlog when I was in New York, those Tim's, y'all saw how I was walking. I could not walk in them Tim's. I need light Tim's. Are there any light Tim's? Because I feel like so many of my looks will look so much better with Tim's, but they're too heavy for me. But my God, today that was my look. That was and don't let me have a glitter jean, girl. A is for Anomaly said, LOL, those glasses with the rhinestones. Yes, I used to get from the hair store. Dr. Anmani said, yes, the nostalgia. Babyface had us in a chokehold back then. Absolutely. Hannah said, Kimura pissed me off with that comment. They really can't help themselves being colorist. Yep. Oh, the layup. And those be the ones laying up with them dark-skinned black men. Because Ebony and Amistad cut from the same cloth. It's not hate, it's envy. Zora said, and we see how Kimura's daughter was fat shaming the other. Kimura is fat phobic and colorist. Yeah. There's not a lot. Her and Tyra, birds of a feather. Birds of a feather. Especially said, damn, I feel so ignorant. I didn't realize that then. I remember being like, Ebony is beautiful. Why are they so mean? I absolutely brought into that Ebony was making this process difficult for herself. Because I remember being like, Ebony, come on, you can win this. Just, don't fight back. Now today, I'm like, I'm so glad she stood up for herself. I'm so glad she fought back. I'm so glad Takara stood up for herself. I'm so glad she fought back. I'm so glad Takara told them people, you knew I was coming. You knew I was plus size. You're trying to humiliate me. I love that they spoke up for themselves. It cost them, but my God, today, at least you can sleep at night. Oh, yes. Yes. She's so racist. Her testimony for Bill against Bill Cosby wasn't even credible because of how racist she is. And I do believe he did something to her, but she was so incredibly racist. The defense was like, "This we can't use her." The prosecution was like, "We can't use this lady. We can't use this lady." Always prices that Giselle was terrible. I didn't feel anything for her. I didn't. She wasn't my cup of tea. But when I look at the documentary, I was like, oh, she was 18. Okay, I'll give her that. But she was a hard watch. Tia said they made it seem like Shandy hooked up and cheated when it was much darker than that. Yep. But we all knew watching it. We all knew watching it. Something was off about that. Shandy was not like that. Something was off. And to see her all over the hanging over the bed, her body shaking, and she said it all. She said, I got up and everything just came washing over me. Oh, Megan said, I remember Shandy is just the one who cheated on her boyfriend. Then I see this and I'm like, oh, yep. Yep. Always Prices said, back then I definitely believed the way they framed it for TV. As an adult now, I was in tears. Just feel like garbage. I think for me, because I felt like something was off with that, but I just, I don't know. I think so many of us, the reason why so all of us are in the things that we're in, especially as a nation, is because we're just not awful people. Like we wouldn't think that a show would film this girl getting sexually assaulted and that be okay and not help. Like, so your mind, because you're not a terrible person, your mind goes to, oh, she wanted it. Even though you're seeing and feeling something totally different, you're not a terrible person. You can't fathom that. So you're going to believe what you would do. You're believing it through your lens. Those people were awful to them girls. They knew what was happening. They knew what was happening. Joe said Nigel being a damn DEI hire, but they never mind when it's them. Ever. Ever. They want to keep that boys club just like it is. Just like it is. Me too. I thought he was so cute, Kiki. I thought he was so cute. Karen said the fact that Shandy said that they filmed that guy assaulting her, they filmed the whole entire thing and they filmed her in the shower and in the bed. Never stopped it, but at the same time, they watch. Yeah, we have them doing it both times. Val said, me and my friends used to joke all the time about the producer Rose and who was going to get it that week when we watched The Bachelor. Do Us for Life said, and The Bachelor is worse, child. When that documentary comes out, To Us for Life said, and Shandy was so good. For a girl that had no idea what modeling was, a natural. Yep. Always Prices said, I wonder how organic that scene really was if the guy was led to pursue the girls to see what would happen. Even Ken, he's like, oh, we sent them all there. They wanted something to happen. They were sending them to get in the hot tub with them guys. Spency said, Adrian is online saying that they didn't pay the contestants. They didn't get paid for America's Next Top Model? Nasty work. Nasty work. Always Priceless said Adrian is going to be discussing the E! News doc, but there's another one coming. Good. F. Usher said, I watched it last night and it was sad to hear Shandy's story. Yep. Always Priceless said, what made me the most sad for her is that she thought her phone call with her boyfriend was private and they filmed it. No, she knew. They told her they were going to film it. They apologized to her after they filmed it because of how distraught she was. Oh, they absolutely did. They love when they do that. I remember when Pauly D was talking about how Pauly D's type has always been black women. But I told y'all I knew that in high school because I remember one of the girls we went to high school with, she had a shore house in Jersey. And every summer, or like whenever it was warm, her and her family would go down to the shore house. And she told us that Pauly D was only booed up with black girls. That was it. And she told me and my friend I thought Pauly D was cute, but my friend loved Pauly D. When I tell you, me and her conspired that entire school year to get to somebody's shore house, to get to that club where Pauly D was. Because we knew that if it wasn't going to be her, it was going to be me. Like, one of us was going to get booed up with Pauly D. So we been knew about that, right? But I remember he was saying that the girls that he liked and was wanted to be with, like production would encourage them to bring people home. They liked that. Like the producers wanted them to bring men and women back to the shore house. But Paulie D was just like, I like black girls. And the girls that he wanted to bring back that he actually liked, the show was like, no, you're not bringing no black girls to the show. You better find something white. So he was just like, that's why you really don't see me like connecting with anybody like that, because I was just bringing somebody home because that's what production wanted us to do. Well, who I really wanted, they would not let them bring back. So I absolutely believe that production had their hand in that whole situation. I wish the people who were producing this would have asked them about that. Tyra and Ken really got away with not answering that. Hannah said Ken, the producer, was gleefully remembering that incident. He had no regret at all. Nope. No remorse. Like nobody took, but this is the thing, he's not alone. Nobody took responsibility. Hell, Shandy is still even blaming herself for drinking on an empty stomach. Oh. Two is for Life said Tyra needs her behind whooped for that scene. She came in and immediately started talking about cheating. Well, this is the thing. It's all her calls was gone. It was all a TV show now. All about getting a reaction. All about, giving the teenage audience what they wanted to see. Deco said, hey, NikkiStar fam. Hey, Deco. Give me shelter said, if everyone involved are still gaslighting the contestants over 20 years later, imagine what it was like for these young women in the early 2000s. Absolutely. Princess said, the Bachelor and Bachelorette 101, get them all drunk and make hasty and unwise decisions. Yep. Megan said, I couldn't believe that they had her call the random guy. And I remember that, and asked him if he used protection and if he had an STD. To have her call the guy that assaulted her. Oh! That is so freaking traumatizing. That is so freaking traumatizing. I'm going to say this. I'm so glad Shandy is still here with us. I am so glad she is still here with us. My God, today. My God, today. Val said, Tyra ain't ever going to cop what they did to Shandy because that would be a huge lawsuit. They gaslit the girl to cover their behinds because they could say, but she said she cheated. Case closed. Yep. I honestly think they knew that. They knew what happened to her. And they spent the rest of the season covering their behinds. I think they knew what happened and said, we got to get ahead of this. Two Us for Life said, that's how predatory this show was. They couldn't call anyone or say anything. They had to sign something before they did the teeth work. Also, Love Island. If anybody wants to leave, they have to pay to get themselves back. A lot of these people are broke actors trying to make it. They can't afford they can't afford a flight from Fiji back to America, wherever they live. Or they get penalized. You got to pay for your flight back and you get financially penalized. My God, today. Oh, listen, I'm responsible. I love the makeovers. I would be watching this and I would be like, y'all don't really want it. Y'all don't really want it. It's just hair. Y'all don't really want it. What woke me up was when they took out that girl's teeth. That's when I was like, oh, we've crossed the line. We've crossed the line. That's what woke me up. And that dentist pulled it out and showed her. It was like, look at that. And I was just like, is this professional? Where'd they get him from? Side note. Do y'all remember when they gave that white girl the weave? See? You know what? Maybe it is my fault, Tyra. They gave her that weave, a sew-in. I was like, white women get sew-ins? She wanted to rip that weave out of. She had them take it out. She was like, "Kill!" Oh my God, I'll never forget it. She was crying. She was like, "Ah!" She was beating her head, and the black girl was just like, she don't know how to wear a sew-in. And she was like, "What is going on with my scalp?" They had to cut that out of her head. She was going nuts. It was a bad sewing anyway, but she was going crazy. That show, oh my God, that show was terrible. Val said Ken Mock conducting himself in those interviews as if the job was taking kids to Disney World for the first time. The tone and energy didn't match the proceedings at all. At all. No remorse. No remorse. Joe said, I love Bree. She was not playing about those granola bars. Her and Nick should have been final too. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. To Us for Life said, Bree had one of the best personalities ever in Cycles. Beautiful, hilarious, spunky, feisty. She was everything. I remember her being one of the only girls that Janice Dickerson ever really liked. Like, that was the only one that she said mean things to Bree, but that was the only one she would say the nicest things about that I've ever heard. She was such a beauty. Oh my God, that hair. Oh, stunning. Stunning. Um, yes. Cannoli said Brie was so gorgeous, breathtaking, really. She really, really still is. Still is. Always Prices said the fact that they weren't choosing the girls' best pictures so the judging could be good TV. Yeah, because they didn't have a story. So no matter how good of a model you were, if you didn't have a story, deuces. Deuces. Um To Us for Life said, I always loved Dion. She was on the cycle that Jazz. Oh, I don't know why I don't remember her. She's stunning. She is stunning. She actually looks younger in the documentary than she did back in the day. Maybe it was the context, but she looks amazing. They absolutely do. Joe said they need a documentary for every season. They absolutely do. When they get to the season with the boys, I remember that season got real crazy. Um, hey, Lorena, thank you for being here. Give Me Shelter said has to because she was a young black woman. Tyra and those grown men weren't going to protect the girls. So sad. Reality TV needs safeguards. Here's the thing. I don't. For reality TV to have safeguards, it's going to have to be union. It's going to have to be union. Like reality TV is what it is because it's not regulated. Joe says, I think Mr. J is lying. He's not going to cop to being okay with the race swap in 2026. I'll say that. I will say, looking back, he was literally the only one running them race swap segments. It was just him. He said everybody knew and nobody wanted to do it. I said, you fool. You fool. Don't do it. Oh, okay. I didn't know because he didn't. He kept on saying South Africa, so I was like, "Is it? What is it in place of?" I'm sorry, I'm American. Like we, what is it? Because I was thinking, I thought he was Dazzy. Oh, he got to stop with them filters. Hey Zora. Zora said, "Hey Nikki, what do you think Tyra? Why do you think Tyra did this doc? It made her look horrible. Yeah, because Cycle 25. She wants to do Cycle 25. So she didn't want them talking about her. She wanted to, without her being able to counter it. She wanted to have her say so too, because if this doc came out without her, it would have been even more brutal. But because she was a part of it, I think it was lighter than it could have been. Always Prices said, we all knew it was out of line back then, and we knew she was the only one looking to be controversial. Yes. We all knew that was crazy. We all knew that was crazy. E for Empathy said, I don't understand Tyra. I just don't get her. She gave fake this whole doc. I couldn't stop yelling at the TV. Something's off, guys. Something's off. There is a video of her at a drag show in Australia. Something's off. Something's off. Two is for Life said they wanted controversy. They did all these crazy things to get talked about and for people to get the show talked about and for people to tune in. Yep. 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 The Purple Jordan said that part. It happened twice. It can't be an oopsie. I think she probably forgot. I think she probably forgot that they did it twice. So she was just like, that's when I knew. Tyra, this is the thing. When America's Next Top Model came out, Tyra was in her 30s. So Tyra keeps on saying, I didn't know that these things were wrong because, at that time it was okay. And I didn't know it was a problem with those things until we put the episode out and everybody had an issue. And I'm just like, no way. You are good and grown, been in this industry since you were 17 years old, 16. You knew, but it was profitable for you. So you let it slide. You became the monster that you initially intended to slay. That's what it is. 714 M King said Tyra was insulting everyone's intelligence every time she came on the screen. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Two is for Life said, yes, Kenya. I loved her. Jay and everyone else dismissed her feeling with that male model. Literally crying. And y'all are still telling her to do it. How did y'all think? And at this point, Mr. J and Nigel, 30s and 40s. But it was the show. Grown men, adults. This young girl is coming to you and saying, this man is making me uncomfortable. He's ramming his penis into my backside and making sexually suggestive sounds. I don't feel comfortable with the way he's touching me. Get back in there. That's the business. She's crying. Well, Tyra would have did it. Then you tell her her picture is terrible. You expected to get a good shot after that? Always Prices said they wanted to break Kenya real bad. Let me tell you something. I remember that bagel shot. And when she said it was one bagel and they kept on editing the shot as if I was eating multiple bagels. And I'm like, they played. That show played in our face because it absolutely looked like she was eating 10, 15 bagels. And they also got the shot of the girls sitting next to her looking like, and then you have the girls who are bigger than Kenya, bigger than her, talking about she really needs to watch her weight. And I'm gonna give it, I'm gonna give them some grace. They were young as well. They were probably encouraged to say those things. Oh my gosh. Eltavina said, I do feel like if everyone is bringing this energy to America's Next Top Model, then let's direct it to the whole fashion industry. Here's the thing. Fashion, music, film and TV. If everybody directs their energy there, you're going to have to be prepared and okay with the collapse. Not everybody wants it to go away. And that's the problem. Joe P. Gould said, I'm so glad Yaya wasn't on the race swapping season. She would have said something, and it was already tough enough on her dealing with the racism on her season. They really tried it. Let me tell you something. When we met Yaya after that, I always thought about that. I remember watching that season being like, are we going to race swap? Because I just knew there was going to be a moment with her, but they didn't do it. Cameron said, I'm surprised they didn't have Tiffany on the documentary. Out of everyone, Tiffany should have been the main one in the documentary. Guys, I thought she was going to be in it. Then I realized I was watching an interview of her talking about the documentary that she's doing with E. Tiffany's going to be in the E one. There's a bunch of them, and I thought they were in this documentary, but it's actually in the one that's coming up that you guys said in March. Um, Dr. Inmani said that show was like a humiliation ritual for those young girls. So sad. Yep. 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 Hannah said Nigel and Mr. J still not taking accountability for ignoring Kenya. They haven't taken responsibility for anything. It's just like, oh, we were doing our job. You were 41. What do you mean? What do you mean? He kept on coming on the show talking about how you're a doting father and loving husband, while encouraging a young lady who was telling you she doesn't feel comfortable to continue to be uncomfortable. Y'all, all of y'all were good and grown. None of y'all are victims. Zora said, except for the girls on this show, Zora said, what's so sad is that being long suffering and having no boundaries is the way to succeed on America's Next Top Model. Yep. Remember how Eva came in? Oh, they wanted to break Eva until they did. Until they did. She had to sit there and cry and say that first they made her the bully. Then she had to sit there and then they made her the bully. Then they broke her down. They encouraged her to be this rough girl. Then they broke her down. They encouraged her confidence. Then they broke her down. And then she had to sit there and cry and talk about how nobody in her family likes her and everybody bullies her. And then also Tyra can come in and build her back up. They played with their minds. I wonder do you think Eva's going to be in the E documentary? I would love to hear her perspective. Cannoli said, gosh, those poor girls were so young too. Cannoli, I forgot that they were teenagers. I forgot. For some reason, I thought they were just as old as Tyra. I don't know. I do not know why I thought they were all so much older. To realize they were teenagers? My God, today. Deco said, Takara's confidence went way down that season from how she started. They were terrible to her. Yep. And I kind of feel like that what happened to her on that show is kind of still it's kind of still affecting her to this day. Because Takara pops out and then she pops back. Like she comes out and she'll come out with something. Like she had this bra collection for a minute and she was like out promoting it and then nothing. And she came out again and then nothing. I absolutely, especially from watching this documentary, I absolutely think that has something to do with that show. Her reaction to like the public eye, I think it absolutely has something to do with that. The Purple Jordan said, and then blamed them for not booking the go see. Like, what were they supposed to do? A Purple Jordan, let's talk about these go sees. Remember when they had them do the go sees in Paris and they like dropped them off in the middle of nowhere and said, here is your go see. You have to figure out how to get there. So many of them were arriving at go sees late because they couldn't speak French. They did not know what to do. They didn't know how to catch a taxi. And they were like, you just have to figure it out. And I remember thinking, this is the industry. You guys have to do this. And then I was just like, this was torture. This was torture. They really set these women up to fail. They did not expect for any of them to do well. All for them to get to the go sees late and the people to be like, oh, we don't want to see you. You're late to the go see. Oh my God, this show was so bad. Priscilla said it's crazy because they break them down so badly and then have the nerve to tell them you look defeated and then eliminate them. The only one they couldn't do that to was Tiffany. And Tyra jumped down her throat. Looking back, Takara was plus size where? Body T. She built like Megan Thee Stallion. Body T. JL, hey, JL said, I never liked Whitney. I remember she said, my best friend is black. How can I be racist? That, oh, really? I was in and out of Whitney's season. Like, the cast really didn't do it for me. So I don't know much about her. Oh, I hate that's how she is. Oh my goodness. Always Prices said, I'm not giving Tyra ish. Tyra's high school classmates have always said she was a mean girl. This show was not about breaking barriers. She exploited them from episode one. This show was vanity. That's what that lady called it. Remember, I forget her name, that producer? They asked her if she regretted anything. She said no. It was a great show. It was a hit show. Why would I regret a hit show? Said it with a straight face. They do not care. They do not care. E for Empathy said, this is why I couldn't give Tyra the grace I was trying to hold for her. She's so disingenuous. For me, it's the fact that she took no accountability, pushed blame to everybody else. How are you not responsible for what happened on the show that you created and executive produced? You called the shots. Yes, the networks have the first and final say, but you can say no. You can take that show to another net. Like, you didn't want to do that. You like the money, you like the applause, and you like the fame. Because this was something Naomi couldn't do. That's all this is. Hey, Nasvi, thank you so much for being here. Two is for Life said, I really think Tyra meant well and had a clear vision to change the modeling industry and help young girls break through. But as the show got bigger, so did her head. She lost the plot. Yep. The Purple Jordan said, ironically, Naomi started the face to traumatize young models later. Here's the thing with Naomi. I think it's going to get real bad for her. I think those of you who were talking about when is it going to hit the modeling industry, I think it is here. I think it's here. It's not looking good for her. It's not. They calling her a madam. And I remember on TikTok, it was this young influencer, and she was talking about how, I think she used to play, she was like a musical prodigy, and she went viral for a video that she did, and then she started doing makeup, and then out of nowhere she became a model. She was like, every opportunity that came to her, she took it. And Naomi Campbell was her mentor, and she was just like, I'm so excited, like this woman who like comes from the same place I come from, this supermodel, is mentoring me. And she said that she reached out to Naomi Campbell for help, and Naomi Campbell told her to get with this guy, like told her to get with this guy. And she said, he's ready and expecting you. And she was like, huh? She was telling Naomi Campbell about the struggles of the modeling industry, and Naomi was just like, this is how it gets better. This guy is ready for you. And I was in them comments, child. I remember being like, you are Naomi Campbell? I could not believe it. Fast forward 2 years later, and I knew something was up because literally the next day she deleted the video and acted like she never said anything. And I was like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? 2 years later, Jesus. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Give Me Shelter said, Tyra treated Tiffany awful, and I saw it back then. I can't remember when I fell off with America's Next Top Model, but when I was done, I didn't look back. Same. Always Prices said, exactly, Nikki, Tyra's a narcissist. Everything returns back to how it makes Tyra look. And I think that, I don't think she knows. Something is missing. Maybe we didn't see it back then because I think we didn't see it back then because we thought that she was doing these stunts as entertainment for the show. This is just who this lady is. Because to sit there and fat shame those girls on your show and tell them they're too fat and this is how the industry is, all to get on your TV show and put on that bodysuit and try to become the body positivity, the face of body positivity, when you were on your show giving young women eating disorders, only when it benefits you is it okay. Okay. Always prices that Tyra even said herself that you may have covers, but I have a hit TV show. It was her getting her lick back, yup, to the industry and the models that outdid her. Yup, 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 yup. Val said, my thing is, why did Tiffany owe her anything? Tyra wasn't some philanthropist. She got what she wanted. She and needed from helping her. She wanted Tiffany to win. Tiffany's story was an overcomer. You know, they wanted to have this Cinderella story with Tiffany. And when Tiffany decided to check out, she ruined their moment and their money. That's why Tyra was mad. She wasn't mad that Tiffany was throwing this opportunity away. She was mad that her storyline for the season was leaving the show. Because when she did that blank thing, if Tiffany would have baked and cried, Tyra would have won. Like, she wanted Tiffany to stay. Tiffany was winning that. But Tiffany said, nope, exploit somebody else. I will not be your poor kid in the addict that you're pulling out to help and make somebody, and I'll be indebted to you. Absolutely not. And I love that she did that at her young age. I love that she chose herself. Two is for life says some on social media think season 4 was set up for Tiffany to win. I absolutely believe that. That could explain why Tyra got so mad. Still not right. The way she talked to her was deplorable. Yep. Cameron said, I remember Brittany from season 4 with Tiffany did an interview during the pandemic, and she said that there was way more than Tyra said to Tiffany. She started talking about Tiffany's son. I believe so, because why was legal on set the next day? Tyra crossed the line. Two is for life said Tyra yelled at that lady all because she didn't cry. I remember being young watching Tyra like, girl, relax. It was just like watching it in real time. You were just like, what happened? Girl, it's not that deep. A princess said she still ain't Naomi. Well, Tyra will always be more of a magazine type model. She wasn't known for runway or high fashion editorials the same way as Naomi. Naomi ate that catwalk. She ate that catwalk. My God, today. Ephraim said, how you going to be a black woman and a white savior at the same time, Tyra? Confused. Hey, God is Leo Simone. So I agree. They even brought her back. I miss when the industry gave quality. This sensitive stuff is causing such a saturation where everybody unpolished and all can just dive in. Influencer culture. Always Prices said, yep, just a narcissist. Tyra wanted Tiffany to beg and engage back and forth. Tiffany turned her back and was done. That is the biggest trigger for a narcissist. Yes. Tiffany, even when she was leaving, she was just like, you don't care about me. Look how you talk to me. Look at all the way y'all been treating me on this show. Tiffany was done. They were mad that Tiffany chose herself. Oh, he was? There is a really good interview that he did with Godfrey and another guy where he was talking about how when he came here, he was just like, I had to adapt to being Black American because nobody, I was German, but I was Black. And he was just like, nobody could see me for that. I needed to be Black American. And he just talked about how he really, really had to adapt. And it was such a good, positive conversation. Like, F Diaspora Wars, I'll do that. I'll take that. I have to watch it. Maybe I'll talk about it with you guys, but that was a really, really good interview. And it made me like him even more. He's a really good guy. I love him. I love Nicole. I love their family. That's a Black Hollywood couple I just adore. Um. Oh no, thank you. Always Price said that was Noah Marin with the dog. He was so funny. Yep. He said, I don't know what happened, but all I know is that the next day, legal was on set. To Us for Life said Tiffany is absolutely right. There was a way to talk to people that you love. The things that Tyra said that didn't make air is not something to say to someone you care about. Yep. Deco by Mel said, I hate the way they introduced Tiffany. She tried out for Cycle 3 and got into a fight because someone threw a beer on her. They made it seem like she was just angry and fighting for no reason. Yep. Remember her interview? And they were in front of her home, her dilapidated home in Arkansas. I don't know where she's from. But and they were they made her seem so impoverished. That was the story, right? You start off with this poor black single mom and this shack in the country, and then she ends up being a cover girl. That's what they wanted, and Tiffany took that from them. And Tyra was pissed. Stayed for so many more seasons, but Tyra was the bad guy. Mr. J, I can't. I can't. I can't. I can't. The Purple Jordan said, Jay said in a recent interview that the fight went on way longer and showed a lot of things that, yeah, of course. Of course. She did. So when she was talking about like not working, I was like, Danny, I remember seeing Danny everywhere. Oh, Navy loved them some Danny. She worked as a model for a minute. Always Prices said, I used to see her in the catalog. I used to get in the mail. Yes, she works a lot. Always Prices said she really was a lot of places, but I'm sure it wasn't as big as she thought it would be, even though the previous winners didn't do anything. Yeah, I thought that I think she worked as like a regular model. I think she was probably comparing herself to Chanel Lamont, who became like a supermodel immediately. And I was just like, yeah, maybe that's what, probably clouded your judgment. But I remember being so proud to just see her working as a model because she was getting work. But I think she wanted what Chanel Iman was getting. Social Stuff said, yeah, the industry didn't see them as legit models because they didn't go through what was considered the traditional process. Yep. What we all come to find out, the traditional process is escorting, child. Durga said, this part blew my mind, especially after the narrative Tyra had run with for so long about Naomi Campbell. One and the same. One and the same. Yep. Always Prices said she called them because she didn't want them speaking out. Yep. Naimahal, not Namahal, said Mr. J said in another interview that they were genuinely picking the best photos in the first season because the judges were actually going through all the pictures and picking the best photos. Yep. When you get bigger, you start listening to that network. One thing I will say about Donald Glover, although he don't write for me, child, I will say what I love that he would do is whenever the network with Atlanta, whenever the network would come fishing around to see what was going on with the show, he always made sure to have a dummy script. And he would always give them or show them like a dummy scene. So he will always have that ready for when the network came around to show the network what they wanted to make them believe that is what the season or that episode was going to be, only for what he really wanted to make it to TV. And because it was so successful, the network wouldn't say anything. But he had to actually trick them to get the work that he really wanted out there. Because if the network had really seen what he was doing, none of that stuff would have made it to air. Joe said, Danny breaks my heart because she may have had a successful career if she went the traditional route. Top model held her back even though she won. I agree. Sierra said, I mean, didn't nobody force these girls to run and go on the show? Most would never be in the industry if not for Tyra. I actually disagree. I think those who really wanted it, like Danny, I think they would have went. They would have went far had they not did Next Top Model, because as we know, Next Top Model held them back. Whitney, I think that's her name, Whitney or Winnie. She is only successful because she removed America's Next Top Model from everything. I remember an interview that she did where she said she didn't use any of her next top model pictures. She got professional shots and went out there and pounded the pavement. She said, I did not associate myself with that show at all. And that is why I am where I am. Always Prices said Tyra is such a damn weirdo. She could have helped and just didn't. Wouldn't cost her a thing. Yep. Yep. Durga said Tyra literally told us at every turn how Naomi didn't help her and how she was horrible, all for her to become the same thing. Give Me Shelter said Tyra is just as awful. I'm so disappointed. Our faces in high places don't really mean a thing. Clearly, yep. Especially if you become a part of the system that is corrupt. Namal said Mr. J also said that after the first season, Mr. J would go through the photos herself. Miss J would go through the photos herself and pick the top 5 photos. Mr. J would send those photos to Tyra and she would pick the best photos from it. I believe that. I believe that. Always Prices said doing what the devil wants you to do will always backfire every time. Every time. I remember seeing that, and Social Stuff said Rita Ora was a DEI hire. I remember seeing that and being like, what the hell does she have to do with fashion? Huh? It just didn't make sense to me. Zora said Tyra spent too much time oppressing and didn't spend enough time watching her own back. Yep. Yep. Give Me Shelter said triangulation. It happens to Black people in every walk of life. Some of us fell before we win. Others fell us to win. Hi, Nicki Minaj and Snoop, Ice Cube, Coon. Read, sister. DGF said they finally stopped ramming Rita Ora down our throats. I will say there was a definite push for her to become a huge star. I was just like, who are you signed to? My God, today they are putting in work. Always Prices said America's Next Top Model built up UPN brick by brick to the point where they were able to rebrand into the CW and started all those white shows. Absolutely, that's what it was. That's what they do anyway. Remember, Blade is the reason why Marvel is what it is now. And now they're canceling the reboot of Blade. Marvel films wouldn't exist had it not been for the success of Blade. You would think they would do more with Black characters, being as though it was so successful. Black Panther isn't enough. With the success of Blade started everything for you. But what they normally do is take those successful Black films and fund these terrible white films and productions. They never make any money. They never do well. It's a cycle. Get them baby eaters out of power immediately. Cameron said, I remember it was the girl who they colored her hair and gave her a weave for a makeover, and the color made her have an allergic reaction, and she had yes, poor thing. Naima, I think that's right. Mr. J said that when he told Tyra he was leaving after his contract ends during the All-Star season, Tyra stopped speaking to him, making his last season, season 18, very tense. My God, today. Cameron said, right, Tyra could have definitely moved the show to another network because I remember back then they were showing marathons on VH1. They could have definitely moved to VH1. Yep. Always Prices said they definitely tried to give Nigel and the Jays a sympathetic edit in the doc, but they all did what was in their best interest of the show and exploited those girls. Yeah, they're not victims. They are not victims. Shay said, thank you, Nikki, because I 100% agree. Tyra was terrible, but they also played a part in this. Yep. This reminded me of the Diddy documentary where everybody was just like, Diddy did this and Diddy did that and Diddy did this. And I was like, you watched? And you helped? Diddy was raping people. And then he made me go out there and get more women to rape. Okay, so you should be locked up with them. What are we talking about? Everybody wants to tell these stories about how these people are monsters. These people are monsters because they have a community that will support their evil. They can't be monsters on their own. They need help. And you help. You help. Um Zora said Rita was also hired to replace Rihanna. It's like her role is trying to replace. Who? What was Rihanna doing? Oh, yeah, it didn't work. Rihanna still has hits. Oh my goodness. Work came on, baby. She still had. Please don't stop the music. She still got hits. I don't know one Rita Ora song. Naima said, Nigel said in his Oliver Twix interview, oh, I love Oliver. I'm glad he got an interview, that they weren't fired, but their contracts didn't get renewed, which to me, yeah, fired. Fired. Zora said, Tyra spent too much time oppressing and didn't spend enough time watching her own back. Yep, because that's the thing. You think that you have a seat at the table. And I'm telling you, if you are not wealthy, white, male, you will never have a seat at the table. I don't know how much it's going to have to happen for the people who keep on supporting this foolishness to realize you'll never be glamour. They will never let you in the club. You will never sit at that table. They got there exploiting you and making you fight other people so that you'll never check them. Look at what we're seeing now. These men trafficked, assaulted children, cannibalism. Nobody, fraud. Nobody cares. Why? Because there are still so many people who are venerating them. There are still so many people who don't want anything to change. Even though these people are doing all these awful things, they do not want to tear down their gods. And this is just a problem all across the board. All across the board. Because a lot of people don't want to admit it, but a lot of people don't want to take these evil people down because they aspire to be them. They don't want to remove the oppressor because they want to be the oppressor. They just want to remove that one and replace him. They like this system as it is. That's why we're in the situation we're in now. Oh, yeah, we got that one. Always Prices said, cash them checks for 17 years, then said how many times you knew that what you were doing was wrong, missed me with it. Yeah, no victim. No victim. And he goes, oh, I couldn't, I was a little too shady. I was a little too harsh. That's it. Give Me Shelter said they blame the time as if the early 2000s wasn't a whole new century. The U.S. and the Western nations will never run out of excuses for bad behavior. Like we didn't have a whole black president and a black first lady and a black first family. You knew that blackface wasn't right. Let's stop playing. Let's stop playing. Naima said the network probably realized they made a mistake by casting Rita Ora, so they brought Tyra back. Oh yeah, they did. But this is the thing. They brought Tyra back. And the thing is, you have to bring them all back. That was the charm. But if you bring them all back, then you have to admit that the show wasn't doing bad. And then we have to ask, what if the show wasn't doing bad, why did you want to get rid of it? That's the conversation that they'll never have. They'll never have. Simone said, Mr. J said in a recent interview that Miss J had been able to start taking steps since the documentary was shot. Amen. Oh, I love that. I said cycle 25. Oh, you out of your mind? We just watched 3 episodes of a documentary that talks about you abusing these women. Child, you better stay in Australia. You better stay in Australia. Shay says after the, I think after the backlash, a new cycle won't happen. I hope so. I hope so. Cameron said, I knew Top Model was over when they did that US Britain season. That season, oh, that I remember that. It was stupid. College, nobody watched the college season. It was done. It was done. Shay said, mind you, Tyra called Naomi out for bullying for years. Then she bullied all the black girls on the show and mistreated them. Yep. Yep. The victim becomes the predator. Zora said, this season will be putting black and queer youth for. Oh, I got that. The Purple Jordan said, I feel like the models for 25 will be influencers. Show will be using it for clout. Of course. Of course. Cameron said, let's not forget that season. They did that season when they let the guys compete. The saxophone started playing louder then. We were like, men? Why would a man be here? Absolutely not. And I even said, not everyone had a problem with Tyra. Marvita from Season 10 said her Oliver Twist interview that she didn't have a problem with Tyra and even helped her get jobs. I need them to be in a documentary. We need you to counter that, mama. Always Prices said, I can't get with it. Tyra wanted to be perceived as a good one, but her core was not good. So her real fruit was shown in every action. Excuse me. Which makes me then think, was Naomi bullying you? Or were y'all matching each other's energy? Were y'all both the black girls that wanted to be the only black girl in the room? And so y'all had a black girl off. And it was made the best sister win. I'm questioning everything, Tyra. Oh, that's smart. The Purple Jordan said, why would Smice cream not be an ice cream? Why is it food? Who knows? DGF said, I would love it if Christian Siriano would send some of his favorite America's Next Top Models down his runway. It would be iconic. You know he was watching too. You know what? I think that's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with Christian Siriano, but I think a lot of people are going to try to correct their mistakes in this industry with these women. I hope so. I hope we get to see it. I hope we get to see it. Wait, where is it? Always Prices that Tyra was always that monster, y'all. I'm sorry. Cameron said that I hate that Jay Manuel keeps trying to act like he's innocent in the situation. Jay used to be nasty as well, and he used to act like it was his show and not Tyra's half the time. Here's the thing, they were the show though. When the Jays left, I love that Nigel was just like, when we were cut, Nigel, great. It was the Jays. It was Tyra and the Jays. They were a great team. Simone said the amount of TikToks that were featured in a documentary to put the blame on COVID watchers. I will say this. I know them TikTokers did not get paid. That's why you Simone, have they gotten you yet? Oh my God. These people are creating these documentaries and they are just stealing TikTok content because TikTok not going to protect their creators. Naima said, Shandy said in her Oliver Twist interview that she didn't have a problem with Tyra until after the show ended. Was she looking for justice or something and just didn't get it? The Purple Jordan said, Nile is doing well, but he also separated his image from America's Next Top Model. Oh, I would too. I would too. K Pratt, thank you for the super chat. K Pratt said, hey, Nikki, I was sad to see them not give Oliver Twist his flowers or even feature him in the YouTube compilation. He put me on to America's Next Top Model Nostalgia, and the other YouTube interviewers shows came after him. I don't know why they didn't either. I would have thought, of all people, that he would have not just you, they would have not even his TikToks, they would have set him down for an interview. If it would be anyone, it would be him. That was weird. Um, Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for another super chat, K Pret. K Pret said, "Oh, I don't want to hear from Adrian, the anti Me Too, oh MAGA model. That makes sense. She's a disappointment. I believe her story, but I don't want her getting money." I I can hear you there. I can hear you there. Thank you so much for the super chat. Um, Oh, Naima said the footage of Shandy cheating is what I'm referring to. She threatened to leave the talk show mid filming if they showed it the first time she went on there. The second time Tyra did, angering her. Yikes. Yikes. Well, here's the thing. Unique said they could have at least pretended like they cared about what happened to Shandy instead of passing the buck. Care means awareness. And if you're aware of somebody being assaulted on your set, everybody gets sued. Shandy would have been a billionaire. So you got to act like you don't know what's going on. Because if you do acknowledge, then you got to write that woman a check. It all just comes down to money. Miranda said, I honestly never believed attractive when she would talk about Naomi bullying her. I just couldn't believe Naomi saw Tyra as a threat. Why would she? You know what? I honestly think they both wanted to be the only black girl. And because they were constantly in those spaces, they were bumping heads. Because from what I know, the black models, they all are friends. They all hang out with each other. Tyra and Naomi are the only ones who are like singular, who don't really have the sisters around. Um, Shay said, Tyra gave me bully ever since that Kenya situation in season 4. How she treated Yaya DaCosta, how she cut Bree's hair while wearing extensions, and how she treated Danny. I was done. Her cutting Bree's hair, to me, still this day, was pure jealousy. Bree's hair was amazing. When Bree walked in, those beautiful curls, she was jealous. And she cut that girl's hair. My God, today. Um, I love seeing them as older women, Sade. I loved seeing them as older women. It was just it was just beautiful. I don't know. I just felt like, I felt like I heard, angels singing when I just saw them all older and just hair and lively. It was just beautiful to see. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Everybody said they did look fabulous. Shows the show didn't break them. Ah, um, Give Me Shelter said I feel like Janice Dickinson is a diaper Don supporter, probably. And she's too volatile to film. I felt she was the boss on Tyra's show. Whew, back then. I don't care to see her. Same. I think that Janice Dickinson had a problem that this black girl had the show and not her. And if you want to take out black, this younger model. How dare you give the show to her and not me? Mm-hmm. Yep. Liza Yali said conspiracy theory. Let's move as paid Justin Timberlake to sabotage Janet Jackson. From what we know now, child, anything could be true. Anything could be true. Because I believe Janet when she was just like, that wasn't supposed to happen. Naima said the girls from season 3 said that production told them prior to their trip to say they were in Japan seeing their boyfriends to keep the show a secret. It didn't work. Oh, really? That was stupid. That was stupid. Naima said Amanda from season 3 said that she was told how to fill out a declaration card at customs, and it was only her. The other girls, the wrangler and the stylist, they all got detained. Yep. That's how they got to give y'all a show, guys. They got to interfere that way. They got to interfere that way. Nika said, "Ooh, that's why Trey met with the girls for lunch, telling them about Tyra met with the girls about lunch, telling them about cheating. That was a cover up. Oh, absolutely. To you, they got her to say that she was wrong and that she cheated. You can't let her sit with that for too long. Mm-mm. The nutrition tea said, I remember when they went to Spain and did a commercial with male models. One of the male models said something racist. I remember that to one of the black girls. Tyra's panel made her feel guilty about being upset. Yep, I remember that. Joe said, I listened to a podcast about America's Next Top Model, and Giselle said the first season they got a per diem to buy food, but they didn't get paid. Insanity. Insanity. Naeem said worse. Adrian said that she went to production, begging them to let her take the weave out. They said no, so she had to wait until after the show. Oof, my God. JL said the production tried to do the same as what they did to Shandy to another girl with a pixie cut, but Annalise, a contestant who later became an actress, protected her. Oh, I love that. Do you remember that girl who was struggling with her identity? She was this beautiful white girl with blonde hair and these huge full lips. She was had such an interesting face. And there was an out lesbian on the show, and she was struggling with her attraction. She was like a church girl, and she had such an attraction to her, and she could not understand it, and she was struggling. And we watched that show exploit that woman's identity. Like the girl was a lesbian. Listen, they were all young, so I'm gonna let it slide. But I really feel like the gay girl. I feel like production was pushing her to like try to establish some kind of intimacy with the girl. I don't feel like she was forcing herself on her, but I feel like that girl knew that she liked her, and production knew. I felt like they, pushed and prodded her to make it bigger than what it was. Because I don't think the gay girl really liked her like that. I think, she was just like, okay, I'm just here having a good time. But I think that they tried to make that into something because they saw that that girl was struggling. Because she was attracted to her, but she didn't know what to do with that because she was this church girl, right? And the only reason why I say that is because the gay girl in her confessionals, she felt so good that she was confusing this straight girl. And I just didn't like how she would talk about her because you could obviously see that that girl was going through something and she didn't want to go through it on camera. But the gay girl didn't set boundaries and she would still talk about it in her confessionals. And I was just like, I don't like her for you. I don't like you for her because I don't like how you're handling her in this. What is her name? Because we haven't heard from her since. She left that show and we haven't heard from her since. Some people said, I don't think they knew enough about reality TV at the time to hide all the toxic parts of it. Oh, reality TV back in the day would never, that stuff would never be able to air today. Y'all remember The Swan? They literally cast people who they thought were ugly, gave them a makeover in like a week. These people were getting head to toe BBLs. They were getting face BBLs, body BBL, elbow BBLs. Like everything was being done. We watched the lady's entire face be rearranged. And then they would put them on this catwalk after they've healed. Some of them weren't even properly healed. And they would meet their families, and their families were like, oh my gosh, they're finally pretty. Oh my God, he's no longer ugly. That show could never get made today. The Biggest Loser could never get made today. But we all watched them. The Swan was my show. Now as an adult, I'm like, yikes. I remember sitting on a couch with my little TV dinner, watching that show, crying at the reveals. Ah! Ah! crying because I thought it was so beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, they're no longer ugly. Terrible. Terrible. The Purple Jordan said the same with Aunt Shao. She was cooking for multiple people, but they made it look like she was eating piles of food. Oh yeah, they were fat shaming her too. Oh my God. I was looking at her Instagram today because somebody, I was reading some in the comments on the thread of America's Next Top Model, and they were just like, "Oh, Aunt Shell just had a baby," and I was like, "Aunt Shell," and I went to go look at her Instagram. She looks the same. Stunning woman. My God, today. Exactly. Unique said, "Why would you bring these bigger girls on the show just to body shame them?" And then you have Tyra saying, "I know that this industry isn't ready for you, but they should be." Uh-uh. You're forcing them to knock open doors that you know aren't open. You're supposed to do that. That's the thing. Tyra never did her part. Her thing was, "Oh, I got you on the show and I'm exploiting you. That's enough." You were supposed to be the one to present them. If Tyra presented these girls, a lot of them could have been working. Paula Girl, hi Star said, "Hi Star fam, finally caught up because I started late. I want to send E for Empathy a mega hug. Also, Nikki, love you for the discernment. You nailed the nuances others missed. Thank you so much." Bart Meets World said, "Hi Nikki, I'm super late, but looking forward to the replay because child, this was a mess. Shaking my head, childhood ruined yet again. Everything in our childhood is just terrible. Terrible." Cameron said, "Remember that one girl who was in a competition and was sad because she was going to miss her high school graduation just for them to..." Evil, 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 evil. Always Priceless said, "I literally thought the same thing, only to find in Paris at 19. I couldn't imagine, only to find myself in Paris at 19. I couldn't imagine having the pressure to need to be on a schedule. Dropped them off in the middle of nowhere and said, figure it out." Ciao. Ciao. Always Prices said, "As they always do, the patriarchy will always sacrifice the women who held up the power structure to protect themselves. Naomi and the likes of her are cooked." Oh, absolutely. I'm telling this is the thing. Out of all the things that these evil men have done, look who's in prison. A woman. Jeffrey ain't dead, child. They ain't kill that man. Giselle, whatever, Jezebel. All these men. There's literally a guy in there buying children. Buying children. Talking about a newborn, giving him a blowjob. My God, today. Kill them all. I'm playing YouTube. But a woman, you thought you could sit with the big boys. Look at you. The people that are going to go first, the non-whites. Thank God my people ain't in that mess, child. The women, the gays. Them gay men think they're sitting pretty. Okay. Y'all will always be sacrificed. I don't know what it has to take. It's like, it's just, nobody gets the memo. The only people that have always gotten a memo, Black women. We're the only ones, and nobody wants to listen to us. Oh my gosh. Hey, Past Peace Yoga said, "What about how some girls were left with poor portfolios after the show because Tyra was choosing the worst photos for entertainment?" Oy vey, ciao. A lot of them were just like, "I'm not using that. If I want to be a legitimate model, I can't." Remember, Kenya was just like, those pictures were terrible. I couldn't send them to an agency. Give Me Shelter said, "I just finished watching Ironheart. Until Marvel does right by its Black properties in this new decade, everything they even think about is going to crumble." Dedicated to Celie Harris Jones. Amen. Amen. But all Unique said, "I can't believe they didn't send the girls home after they were eliminated." Unique, they do that with all the shows though. Nobody can leave. They make sure people are People are secluded because you can't know who won. If the show is still going on and you see somebody back home, then you're just like, oh, okay. That's when they were doing those shows in real time. I think now for the shows where they're filming them in advance, like Love Is Blind, you don't have. They're not going to keep those people in hotels. But the shows that are like Love Island, them people don't leave. They stay right on that island. Always Prices says same thing with the people at Pastor T.D. McNutt Church. Now everybody running to the internet to say what they saw and nobody reported a thing. They're all complicit. They're all complicit. DGF said Fox 1990 Black Focus shows funded Fox News. Yep. Rupert Murdoch, who now owns Tubi. Hello. Hello. The same thing. When they are losing money or when they need money to fund something, where do they go? To the blacks. And what do? Make them wealthy. When the coffers are full, the programming will change. Absolutely. Tubi is going to become some white supremacist network that black people built. Tell us all this time. Tell us already time. Give me something that I started my birthday with Brooke Ashley and I continued into the early morning with Nikki.Star. A win is a win. Amen. Social Steph said, oh, you know what? Let me do the birthday. Give me a minute. I'm trying to, I'm doing too much anyway. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Social Steph said Rihanna can't stand Naomi, and I want to know the true reason. I think it has to do with that billionaire mid. Oh, yes. Oh, she loved that man down. Here's the thing. I knew that wasn't going to work. I said, Rihanna, now you and I know you're not going to be garbed up having that man's babies. She wanted it to work. She wanted it to work. She loved that Arab man. Hey, Marianne. Marianne said, OMG, The Swan. I was thinking about that too. What about the other show? Ugly Duckling. Yep. All there's one lady, she got everything done. They gave her a whole facelift, then gave her all new teeth simultaneously. Gave her a boob job, a tummy tuck, skin grafting. When she walked out on that runway, she was like this because she was still healing. Favorite family show. My God, today. My God, today. Yes, that's her. Stunning. She was so pretty. First of all, those two were hot. If they ever wanted to really make it work, that would have been a real hot gay couple. Liza Gowley said, you're talking about Kim with the red hair, blue eyes, tomboyish, and Sarah, taller, full of lips, nose, and they had a cute blonde hair, cut her cute blonde hair short. Are you talking about those two? Yes. She was so she was not okay. And I was just like, let this girl fill this out. Why? I don't think the show should have focused on that at all. Because they weren't doing anything in front of the cameras like that. Like a lot of stuff that they was doing, they was, scissoring back at the hotel. They wasn't doing nothing in public for the show to catch on. But they were talking about it in confessionals. And it became a thing. And when she realized the show was focusing on them, she became so uncomfortable. And I'm just like, y'all didn't even let this girl explore and figure out if this is what she wants to do. If this is for her. Y'all never allowed this young lady to, form her identity before y'all started exploiting it. Who knows what she would have been if the show would have just let her be. Oh my God. So said, I feel so guilty for watching my 600-pound life and 1,000 roommates, 1,000-pound roommates and 1,000-pound sisters. The sisters are hilarious. They have great comedic timing. JL said, do you remember production forced an impoverished white woman who was openly gay to reveal her sexual assault story? I couldn't forget how she said, I have never told anybody and now the world knows. Oh my God. I do not remember that. But I do remember they had the homeless people posing around the models who were playing homeless. And do you remember that Russian girl who was married to that much older guy? They knew she was a mail order bride. Why the hell are you exploiting that? Help her! Oh, that hungry man was the only thing I didn't like was the peas. But outside of that, chow, that was my show. Miranda said, yes, the swan was a dystopian fever dream. Let's cram 14 surgeries in 1 month on one person. Horrifying. After the first episode, I looked up the surgeries, and one lady had cried. That show was a mess. That's why you can't find it anywhere. It was terrible. Um, Dr. Amani said, good night. Thank you, Nikki, for a nuanced and thoughtful commentary. Of course, this was fun. Thank you all. I got to get out of here. The jaw's starting to get a little sore. I've been doing too much talking. I got to shut it up. But I had a really, really good time. And this just confirms for me that I'm really going to do the hold on, always practice that. I wonder what happened to the people on the swan. Thank you for saying that, because this little, although it was sad, talking to you guys was a good time. This nostalgia, this throwback, I want to do it. And I think the first show I'm going to start off is with the swan, and then we're going to talk about next. I want to talk about shows from back in the day and how they would show up today, like what is like how that show would resonate today, or how different does it look. So I'm going to do my due diligence and find older episodes of the swan. Guys, I've been looking for next, I can't find it, but I'm going to do my due diligence, and we're going to have those conversations, because this was actually really, really, really good. So let me get out of here, and some more content is coming. Tomorrow is Love is Blind. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Thursday. So yeah, tomorrow is Love is Blind. I have a full day tomorrow of like my real work. So Love is Blind is going to be late, guys. I know you guys don't like the late videos, but if I didn't do it, should I do? Let me see. No. Yeah, if I don't do Love is Blind tomorrow night, I'm not going to be able to do it Friday because I have two other shows. Let me see. I'm going to ask y'all right now. Do y'all want to do Love is Blind tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard? For the East Coast, that'll be 10 p.m. for y'all. Or I would have to do it 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time Friday. Which I want to do. If not, it's going to have to be late tomorrow. And I know East Coast don't like the late ones, but my day is jam packed tomorrow. There's no way I can do it earlier. 7 p.m. it is. Y'all like tomorrow? I got one tomorrow. Oh, so said it don't matter to me. Okay. I got 2 tomorrows, 3 tomorrow. Okay. Do it. Love is Blind is tomorrow. I will see you there. I love you all so much. This was a good time. See you soon. Bye. Oh, that show